Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Fantasy Fangirls Podcast, where two sisters dive deep into beloved fantasy lore, characters, themes, theories, and more.
Thank you so much for joining us today as we cover chapters 37 through 40 of Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. But before we begin this deep dive, please listen closely to our content warning as always. Most importantly, we have spoilers for all of Iron Flame. We may be focusing on chapters 37 through 40 today, but we are bringing the whole book into the conversation. Everything from Iron Flame, Fourth Wing, and anything else that Rebecca Yarros has said, it's all on the table.
So if you don't know why Felix is about to steal all of our hearts and explode our minds, please go finish the book. We will be here when you're done.
Next up, this podcast is rated R. We of Fantasy Fangirls are adults who say adult things with adult words about an adult book.
We're about to analyze a blowjob scene in detail. So this episode is absolutely rated R. If you are a parent or a family member of ours, please, for the love of God, go listen to any other episode. Your ears will thank you later. But if you're not a family member or a parent of ours, then just be mindful of little listening ears and get ready for a ride. Wink.
Really? Any other episode, Nicole? Because there's nothing else in any other episode?
No, we're innocent little doves in every other episode.
You all know the drill. You know how we work here. Something a little extra special today is you probably actually noticed when you opened up this episode, surprise, we have a new logo.
When we started Fantasy Fangirls back in September, we had no idea whatsoever what this would grow to be. And as we've grown this into something that is extremely beyond our wildest dreams, we wanted to revamp this logo to uniquely represent our brand and where Fantasy Fangirls is going.
And as exciting as it is to introduce our new amazing logo, I will admit, Nicole, that it's a little bittersweet to say goodbye to the OG branding that truly carried us to the point where we're at today.
Who knew something I made in Canva in 5 minutes would mean so freaking much to me, I swear to God. And with this in mind, however, we are going to retire all of the original branded merch in our shop on January 19th.
So if you've been itching to rep the OG logo to show, hey, you've been part of Fantasy Fangirls since its early days, please head to the link in our show notes or YouTube caption.
Or if you're like, you know what, out with the old, in with the new, I'm ready to rep this new logo. We have so much new branded merch, from stickers, sweatshirts, t-shirts, mugs, everything. It is all in our shop.
Last thing, as always, before we jump into our Iron Flame episode 7.
If you love Fantasy Fangirls and you want to support us in making this dream our livelihood, if you want more content, more community connection, discounts on merch, like that new merch we have, early access to episodes, and more, please check out our Patreon. We have 2 membership tiers, Cadets and Dragon Riders, and like I just mentioned, if you want some OG merch, if you want the new logo merch, you can get it through Patreon for 20% off. Love a deal.
To join our Patreon, the link is in the show notes or YouTube captions, and really and truly, thank you so much for helping us bring these episodes to you.
And now, Lexi, it is time to see our beautiful Andarna again.
Yay!
It's about fucking time.
Let's begin this episode deep dive with Battle Brief, aka Nicole's summary of what happens as we kick it off with part 2, chapters 37 through 40 of Iron Flame.
Part 2, Chapter 37. Violet is trapped in another dream where she faces off with the sage. And just as he's about to take a dagger to her, she wakes up in Xaden's very large, very comfortable bed. And next to her is a half-naked, sleeping shadow daddy, feeling frisky and desperately wanting to feel alive. She kisses Xaden awake and then really makes him feel awake. And bang, bang, bangity bang. I said bang, bang, bangity bang. No better way to start part 2. Heading to the assembly chamber, Xaden and Violet pass the hundreds of cadets they brought with them and wonder, what the hell did they just do? And it seems like they're not the only ones thinking this. They walk into an absolutely irate assembly meeting. These people are pissed at what Violet has done, but Xaden steps in with a "not my girl" and reminds the assembly that he alone bears the responsibility for Violet. He pulls down his shirt, exposing miles of rock-hard body. Wait, that was earlier in this chapter. He exposes a silver scar right above his heart. Xaden finally talks some sense into these people, mostly. You have knowledge, fucking teach them. And just as they're starting to gather a bit of a plan, a shimmering bond opens up within Violet again, and Darna is finally awake. Chapter 38. In the Dragon's hangout spot in the Valley of Aracia, Violet meets up with Terrence, Sigale, and Andarna, and our girl is hungry. After flaring her wing in an attempt to flight but stumbling forward instead, almost taking Violet out, Andarna and Sigale walk off to enjoy a herd of sheep. Tough time to be a sheep in Eurasia. Violet and Taryn have a super private conversation where Taryn tells Violet that one of Andarna's wings has not properly formed, and because of that, she will never bear a rider. Mini montage! With this deeply distressing information regarding Andarna, Violet dives into translating Warwick's journal, and of course, back into classes, Eurasia style, and our crew is adjusting to this new life, like in Battle Brief. Still taught by Devera, but now also Brennan, aka Lieutenant Colonel A. Sarai. And man, oh man, is this a different Battle Brief. They tell the actual truth. Go figure. They say that the Paromish town of Anka has been taken by Dark Wielders, but also the Dark Wielders are just chilling in Zolia, almost like using it as a base. We will be talking about that later. We also learned that Griffin Flyers attacked Samara looking for weaponry. Violet, frustrated with the repercussions of her actions with taking half of the Besgaiath recruits, woof, is determined to figure out how to get to Cordon and get this damn luminary. But shit, a riot approaches and Tyne leads the pack. Shortest revolution in history. Violet bursts out into the courtyard and puts herself between Mira and Ryerson House. And Taryn takes it to another level, grabbing Tyne's throat and for fuck's sake, almost killing him. Turns out Mira comes in peace though. Lilith came to Samara and told them all the truth about the Wyvern and the Dark Wielders and gave them the opportunity to choose their own adventure. Mira chose the revolution. Mira's gaze then shifts to her you should be dead brother. He is ecstatic. They run towards each other, finally reunited, and Mira punches him in the face. Chapter 39. All three Sorrengails are reunited, and Brennan definitely has a broken nose. Sounds like siblings. Mira is rightfully pissed at Brennan and makes it known with numerous twist-the-knife comebacks to her bigger bro. And Violet, trying to help her brother and de-escalate the situation, is ignored by these three older siblings. Shouts to you, my younger sibs. Xaden walks in, and Violet quite literally climbs this man like a tree. And Brennan is like, clutch my pearls in front of my eyes. But Violet drops the knowledge bomb on the situation. I know how to raise the wards. Later, the Assembly, Bodhi, and Violet are all walking towards the wardstone in Eurasia, and the Assembly are being little bitches about it. Violet literally thinks that she can save them all, and they're all like, you're wasting my afternoon, ma'am. All they need to do is take the 6 most powerful riders in Eurasia and bleed on the wardstone. That's it. They open up their palms and begin to bleed on the wardstone. And boy, oh boy, do I hope they have their tetanus shots. But nothing happens. Dun, dun, dun. The Assembly is like, I told you she's wasting our time. Way to rub it in, y'all. Xaden is an encouraging boyfriend about it all, though. He'll try again as he wraps both of their hands. But Felix, noticing her powers start to rise, is actually helpful. We'll start our lessons tomorrow. However, Violet, she needs to do more. So she goes to her sister and requests her help. Chapter 40, it's Signet training time. My fucking favorite. I'm so excited to talk about this. Violet and Felix stand on top of a mountain, and Felix is ready to see what this lightning wielder, the most powerful rider in her generation, can do. And Violet wields 2 strikes almost back to back and looks at Felix and is like, did you see that? But Felix is wildly unimpressed. He goes on to tell her that thanks to Car, she never mastered the basics of her pure power signet. Oh, and she can also wield lightning from her own 2 hands. He gives her a small orb with alloy for her to begin practicing siphoning her power through, so to speak. Felix might be an ass, but boy, oh boy, he is one helpful ass. Thank you for entering our story, my guy. Later, Mira, Violet, and Brennan are heading to their dragons for a sneaky mission. They are going behind Xaden's back and flying to Viscount Takaris' house. Fucking favorite stretch in the book. As they land in this beautiful city, they notice that it definitely appears that they were expected here. Weird. They are required to share one truth with a line of Griffin Flyers, one of whom has the Griffin Flyer equivalent of the Truth Sayer Signet. Turns out they have really powerful mind powers. This might be important for later. Violet admits to the Truth Spotter that she is here to wield for Takaris, Brennan is here to make a deal for the Luminary, and Mira is here to gut people like fishies if they hurt Violet. Turns out that Mira's approach earns her some respect from those Griffin Flyers, but just as the guards part the way to make it into the palace, a rider in all black steps out like he is ready to commit some shadow daddy murder. You're not where I left you. Violence. Dun, dun, dun.
Whew! As always, thank you so much for that battle brief there, Nicole. Now it is time for us to don our signets, tap into our powers just like Violet does in the stretch of chapters, and start with our key insights, theories, foreshadowing, and all the rest of that good stuff.
We open on yet another Venom dream. And this is the opening to part 2. So this is like neon sign. Pay attention to this, y'all. Now in episode 4, I did a mega deep dive on who could the sage possibly be, highly emphasizing the connections to Xaden. And while I'm still leaning no on the Xaden front, I did come across yet another parallel. And yep, it is about italics. I'm fucking on it with it. Violet is in her head and she's thinking, I'm trapped in this fucking nightmare again, but at least I made it farther across the sunburned field this time. Note, she is thinking this in her head with no italics. And she has also said nothing out loud to the Venom thus far. But he responds to her with, of course, again. Remember, she said, I'm trapped in this fucking nightmare again. He responds out loud with, of course, again. Right before he says this, he says, you will never be free of me. I will hunt you down to the ends of the continent and beyond. Sounds quite a lot like there's nowhere in existence you could go where I couldn't find you, Violence. Remember? That was in chapter 36. Now, this could be someone else related to Xaden. This could be another mind signet. Now, I've also speculated that the Venom have some kind of special power, special relationship with mind signets. So I think that this is definitely more leaning towards that than leaning towards Xaden. I think we're maybe supposed to think it's Xaden, possibly, or at least speculate it. So I'm leaning more towards the Venom have some kind of special mind signet abilities, and that might be why they're also hunting Xaden as well. And maybe possibly Violet, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
Well, I also think that, of course, he's able to hear her inside her brain because it's already inside of her brain. This is like an inception effect because he already can go into her mind in the dreams. And we're going to get to that about how they can communicate here in just a moment. Then, of course, within the dream, he can also read her mind because he is reading her mind as the dream it overall. I'm sorry, I'm talking about Inception sort of things. It's going to be a little bit confusing no matter what. So that was my interpretation. But of course, I love that call out there. And I do think that there is something to this mind signet concept. Who knows? Maybe Colonel Atos also has a mind signet. And that is what kicked off his whole buddy there with the Venom. I have no idea, but just throwing that out there.
Oh, I like where your mind is going on that front. Absolutely. I didn't think about it in the way of the dream. That almost feels like too easy to me. You know what I mean? But also, it is a dream. Like, that is how dreams work. I don't know. We'll see. But I do like the idea about Venom having some kind of special mind signets. And that's why they're hunting specifically Xaden, because he has a mind signet, and most possibly Violet, because maybe she has a mind signet as well. We'll get to that later.
I want to dive into something else here regarding the dreams. We could talk about these dreams all day long, but I'm going to pull out a few more key insights here, especially that have been very popular on the internet. So there's been a lot of speculation among readers that Violet is actually seeing Xaden's nightmares, and therefore it's a hint to her second signet. I'm going to explain how these actually are very much Violet's nightmares because I think that there is a very important distinction. Number one, Violet sees the same sage in all of her nightmares, and he wears maroon robes. We get confirmation that this is the same sage that was at Resin. I checked, and yes, Resin sage and her dream sage are wearing those purple floor-length robes. So yes, this is indeed the same sage. I'm just going to say purple and maroon, they're going to be considered the same color here. However, later in chapter 52's dream, Violet does note that his robes are purple today, which leads me to think maybe they're not actually always purple, even though all of the dream descriptions that we get, they are purple there. So just a little thing to note there. But the Venom we face in Xaden's POV, chapter 66, which I don't think is so much of a nightmare as a memory, has blue robes. And there is some kind of language there that this has been a reoccurring nightmare as well, and now it's almost like happening in real life here. We learn that this Venom who has been visiting Xaden's dreams and who he faces off at the very end in person, he is actually a general. So it has been this general primarily in Xaden's nightmares with his blue robes. So two different dark wielders are infiltrating Xaden and Violet's dreams to communicate with each of them. One has blue robes and is a general, so that makes sense that he's going after Xaden, who's the one who they all really, really want. And then the sage with maroon/purple robes is one in Violet's dreams. Maybe it's more of like taunting for the benefit of the general there. Kind of like that lower level is going after, yes, the powerful one, but then the general is going after the most powerful one who they really want.
Can we bring it back to Varish in the interrogation chamber? Violet was the tool. Xaden was the prize. What if this is the same thinking because they're all venom? What if this is all the same?
Exactly. So this brings me to my second point here about why I really do believe that these are Violet's nightmares, is that Violet refers to Taryn and Andarna in the first dream sequence we got several chapters back. And if she's referring to Taryn and Andarna, I don't feel like it would be her tapping into Xaden's dreams, because she is very much locked in her nightmare as herself because she is concerned about her dragons. And the final point here is that we know that the Venom really do want Violet in addition to Xaden. Every Venom she encounters tells her this, from the Dark Wielder she fights in Resin to the captured Venom she set up against in Corden, who we will cover in our next episode, to the one she faces off with at the Battle of Basgiath, and then of course Jack fucking Barlow. So even though we know that they ultimately want Xaden most of all, we do know that they really do want Violet. So of course they would also be going into her nightmares and I'll say sharing this information with her. So that's why I believe it's not Xaden's dreams that she is seeing. It is her own dreams, and Xaden is having his own nightmares as well. Let's talk about how in the world does Venom work with all this communication, because I'm assuming that these dream sequences are indeed how the Venom communicate from a far distance. Not just with Violet and Xaden, but maybe with other Venom within the wards. Like, is this the communication method Jack used to know what to do with the lures later on in the book? I'm so hung up on how in the world Jack and potentially Varish or whoever else is with the Venom, how are they all communicating from Basgiath with them outside of the wards? And this has to be the answer, because this is how the Venom are communicating with Violet and Xaden.
Love this. I love where you're going. I could see that.
The last thing I'll note here on the stream, where is this sunburned field Violet is in these nightmares? She references it in every single one of her dreams, and I have to wonder, are we going there? Is the sage projecting her in a certain location? I was trying to see if there was any descriptions about Basgiath to see if it was almost like a premonition that this is where they will be in Basgiath. I didn't get any clues about that. It very well might be, but I just don't know. Again, it could be that premonition. That's another second Signet theory. My gut is telling me that this Venom is actually infiltrating their minds while they're sleeping, and it's more of a way of communication rather than a premonition.
I fucking love this. Could it be the Barrens? Could it be somewhere in the Barrens, do you think?
Very possible. That was kind of my thought there, where it's almost like going to the Venom's home turf because that's how they envision it, or something like that.
Could totally. Or honestly, because I know there's that one spot, and I can't remember if this is how it's described or if this is just my headcanon. Like with Resin, I always kind of imagined it like kind of desert-y wasteland. I don't think that's how it is. At least the front of it. I don't think that's how it's described, because it's still in...
No, because remember the beautiful lake and the beautiful mountains that were really close by? Yep. So now it is a wasteland because of everything that happened there, but it was not previously. It was quite a lovely mountain area.
Well, then we can imagine that Zulia would be very similar too. So, and since they're using that as a base, then maybe it's Zulia? Maybe it's a field outside of Zulia? I don't know. Maybe I'm just grasping at straws now.
Right. I do wonder if it's located in the Barrens, but it's one of those little details that I just wanted to call out there, because she is in the same location each time. And we, as far as I know, have not seen this location yet in the books.
Let's talk about something else I love, which is sexy time. It's my favorite. Zane's room sounds like a fucking dream. There's big windows, thick velvet drapes, wall-to-wall bookshelves, and a massive bed. I would sleep in here every night. I would not even fight it. I would be like, oh darn, so sad. I guess I'll just sleep in here every night. No problem.
I have such a delicious visual of Xaden sleeping peacefully next to Violet. Like, she notes there's such a vulnerability there, and especially with someone who looks like Xaden, who acts like Xaden, is just sleeping so peacefully. I just love it so much. There's just something so special about seeing the person you love next to you sleeping. It's just another sweet moment that all of us can relate to. And I know I can feel it definitely, like when I'm seeing my husband.
I love looking over in the morning and seeing Brett sleeping. And then sometimes he'll like sense me looking at him, and he'll open his eyes and he's like, the fuck are you doing? And I'm just like, hi. So there has been some, I'll say, confusion/criticism as to why Violet initiates sex right after getting mended and tortured for 5 days straight.
Wait, Nicole, was she tortured for 5 days?
She was tortured for 5 days, Lexi.
Oh my gosh, why did you not bring this up in the last episode?
I really fucked up. I've disappointed you all. I deeply apologize. But this line right here says it all to me to answer this criticism, she says, quote, alive, I'm alive, and that's exactly what I want to feel. This is her writer mentality coming out more and more and more. Also, remember that he has been so careful with her in the last few days. I mean, obviously, she's been tortured for 5 days. He needed to be. So this line, quote, and I need him to do exactly that, break, to lose the gentle kisses and the cautious touches and take me with the full force that I know he's capable of. No holding back, no soft and slow. I'm molten. But that is right there. Like, she is like, I'm done. She also does not ever like being treated like she's breakable. This has been a common theme throughout her entire life as we know it, at least being in her head. I think that it makes so much sense that right after that, she's like, I am alive. I want to feel the most alive. And also, I think that this sex scene is so brushed over in the book. I mean, with the throne scene and the emotional intensity of the shower scene, I can see why. But I love this scene. I love this scene. I think it's perfect.
I will be honest, I kind of forgot about it after my first read through just because there was so much else going on. Like, I know.
How did you forget about it? I'm going to just talk about a few tropes that are in this scene that make me really just absolutely fall to my knees. I love it when the couple in the romance novels wake up and the guy is already rock hard for her. Like, that is just such a good trope. I love it so much. It's such a,
I'm
like,
pretty sure that's just something that happens.
I know, it's
like
not
every morning.
Every morning?
Yeah? Maybe I should not say that.
This kind of reoccurring theme, I'll say, immediately makes me laser focused when I am reading. Another thing I was not expecting to love as much when I was reading romance, like when I very first started, was when a girl gives guy head. This is not something you see in every single romance novel, but like, this shit is delicious to me. No pun intended. I didn't know I would enjoy it so much. And I think I probably like it because, like, normally when it happens, it's like the guy is losing control. He growls, he moans, he has some kind of like head thrashing back or whatever moment. If 1 year ago me knew that this was something that I would have read multiple books involving a scene with this and loved it, and also talking about it openly on a podcast in front of thousands of people, I would not believe that. 1 year ago me would be mortified. And yet here we are. I love it. I love those parts in books. They're great.
All I'm going to say in response to that, I promise no spoilers here, I am rereading the ACOTAR series, and I just finished a particular scene about a different kind of fun that has a big influence on my favorite things. And I can't say any more that's spoiler free, but oh man, I'm at some good parts.
I know exactly which part you're talking about. I'm not saying head is my favorite part of any book series. I'm just saying I enjoy it more than I thought I would.
I just love the emotional and the physical buildup where it starts out really slow and not even anything else crazy happens because it's just part of the tension buildup. I love that.
We're going to cover a chapter of that in just a few, but I'm so excited. I do have some advice for Xaden, and that is, if you do not want a woman to climb you like a tree, please do not say, quote, you're not recovered enough for the things I want to do to you. I would immediately be like, I'm recovered, I'm fine. Like, take me. I would have done exactly what Violet did, 100%. This is not a full-blown death of me moment, so I'm not adding it to the count. However, it is at least something enough to bring to the surface. He says, quote, are you trying to kill me? To which she replies, yes. He says this multiple times in Fourth Wings, and of course we have the ever so ominous death of me. But this is the first time she's responding with, yeah, I do. Like, absolutely. Now, I do think that Xaden's love for Violet in some way will be his downfall. Whether that is the downfall has already had its arc, you know, he is a Venin now because of his love for her. I do think it's going to go a step further. The more and more I'm reading this book, I need to come to terms with the fact that I do think he is going to die. I don't think he's going to make it out of this series alive.
I think he will, but it is going to be one long journey.
The gravity one last time really got me. Like the
gravity,
Brennan, yeah, the gravity shit is really ominous to me. But I love that Xaden is like, no, you're still healing. And then Violet's response is to, quote, suck him deeper, and then says, I want you feral. I love this girl. I love her so much. I want to add this to the list of things I love in books, but would be a no for me in real life, is when Xaden grabs the pillow and throws it to the ground and says, I want them to hear, I want them to know your mind. Like, that is so fucking hot And if a guy did that to me in real life, I would be like, I would zip my mouth shut. I'd be like, I'm not making a peep. Oh, what a guy.
Nicole, I'm a little bit surprised that you aren't mentioning something that I picked up on during the scene, or I'm speculating a little bit about. I'm like 98% positive Xaden is reading Violet's intentions in this scene. Not in a privacy invasion kind of way, but like a double check that he's not taking advantage of her. When she says that she wants him feral, the thought barely escapes her before he acts, which, yes, could easily just be eagerness, but I think it better fits how he reads thoughts. It's like the thought before the actual thought. And then there's even the lines like, Gods, he knew exactly what I needed without me telling him. Again, that could definitely just be their chemistry, but I think he is very subtly reading her intentions as that little double check that, yes, this is indeed okay for him to do right now.
I cannot believe I missed that. And yes,
we're a little preoccupied.
I was thinking about a blowjob scene. That's what I was. I did not catch that, but I think you're 100% right. I definitely think that's intentions moment. Last thing I will say on this scene, I also want to point out that there is one more tie to the word sweet and Xaden. And if you want my full Venom breakdown, Venom dream as to why the word sweet is attached to Xaden so much, listen to episode 4 for my full rant. But Violet says, quote, "It just gets better, hotter, sweeter until there is no world outside of him." Again, just another tie into that word sweet. But let's move on to the assembly meeting, a much less fun scene in my opinion. Why do you think that there was such a pointed moment where she's looking at the chair? Or chair, throne? Is this the throne? I'm assuming it is.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay,
yes,
that's what I
it's
thought.
definitely
That's what I
the
thought.
throne. Yes.
It's just never called a throne.
Until she realizes that it is essentially the throne. And she probably wants to, yeah.
It says that half of the wood is walnut and shiny, and the other half looks like it's been burned and then polished and sealed. Is this just about the burning of Erasia? Did this happen during the burning of Erasia? Is this to symbolize the burning of Erasia? Is this priming for the throne scene? Why do you think that there is such a pointed moment where she's looking at this throne?
I am really curious about only half of the throne being burned. Is this simply a consequence of Erasia burning and it's a visual representation, or is there more of a meaning here with half of the throne being burned? I'm guessing this is more of a symbolic meaning here in literature. Yes, it was burned, but it also wasn't, and it's still functioning, still standing, still powerful, just like Erasia itself.
I love that it's burned and then polished and sealed. Like that means that they didn't bother repainting or sanding it down or whatever. Like they wanted to seal the burn in there.
Part of its history. Yes,
exactly. So, friendly reminder, here are the assembly members before we cover them in detail in today's archive section. We have Hawknose or Ulysses. We have Suri, Felix, Battleaxe or Kylan, Trissa, Brennan, and Xaden. Now, the assembly is giving me, mine is Xaden and Brennan, the younger generation thinks that they can save the world. Like, there's like such a common theme in a lot of fantasy, honestly, in a lot of books that we love, where it's like the younger generation, they are the ones who see the board the clearest. I mean, Harry Potter, Hunger Games, I mean, you could go on and on, but these people are unhinged to the nth degree. It is wild how they act sometimes. Now, this is probably nothing, but there is a quiet woman with shiny black hair, and she says something about the journal. She says, quote, "But if you can translate it, then there's a chance we can secure," and it cuts off. Again, probably nothing because they're talking about Erasia, thus saving a lot of lives. I'm assuming they're probably talking about the Ward Stone. We can secure the region, whatever. But there is a lot of people getting cut off in the last few stretches in this book, honestly, in this book as a whole, really. And it just feels like every time they are cut off, they're about to say something really important. And Rebecca, being the master of focus, says, oh, hey, here's this thing. Oh, no, we're going to focus on this over here instead. And I think it was Ulysses who cut her off, which is infuriating because that guy sucks. But I'm just wondering if there's something beyond Erasia that they're talking about securing. Again, I don't think so, but I just wanted to call it out. I love so many things about our girl Violet, but this is a bit of a moment for Violet here. How did she not know Xaden was the 7th assembly member and the Duke of Erasia? Like, our girl is so intelligent. She is so smart. He was sitting on the chair/throne at the beginning of this book. He is one of the leaders of a revolution. He is living in his house, which is a fortress. It's huge. I just love that she's like this brilliant fucking woman. And yet she's like, is this yours? Like, this is you? Like, I get it. She's been very distracted. Her entire world has flipped upside down. But that was just a moment where I was like, oh, Violet.
I think of it as when you're in the presence of someone big, but you don't really recognize them as that. Like, Violet got to know Xaden while they were both at Basgiath. That's where they fell in love. That's where they really got to know one another. And now seeing him in this space as an assembly member in his own home, it's still pretty foreign to her. So I can see how it took the gears a little longer to work. But yes, I'm also a little bit surprised that it didn't click until maybe if it clicked like at the very beginning of the book, like that would have made a little bit more sense for our girl. But yes, this is totally not the same thing. But this all kind of reminds me of when I started dating a guy during my very brief stint living in LA back after college. And my roommate told me after I had been on multiple dates with this guy that he was a really big child actor. And in films that we all know and love from the 90s, like you all would absolutely know them. And I had no idea. And of course, it's LA. Everybody's been an actor or something. The fact that I wasn't and working at a restaurant like really threw people off. I know this is not the same thing, but it really made me think of like that naiveness about the person that you're dating. And like I had a real wake up moment where it's like, oh,
I remember you calling me and telling me who this person was. And I screamed, absolutely screamed.
Oh man. He's a great guy. I hope he's doing well these days.
What a life you've lived. My God.
I know.
Ryan Gosling. I mean,
well, he just pretended to be my boyfriend. That's a whole other story.
That's for a Q&A podcast episode that we'll tell someday. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up is Dane lying or truthing in this episode. We have been very candid, especially at last episode, discussing at length Dane's redemption arc and truly believing that it is a honest redemption arc. Now, we have also discussed at length the parallels between Cath's breath, other dragons, and those of who are connected to what we believe dark magic. Through wondering if Dane is somehow being controlled by leadership, there is no cure, there's only control. I do not think he is knowingly evil. I do not think he is knowingly associated with dark magic. I think if it was, it'd be like him just being controlled like puppet strings in the background. But twice in this scene, it is brought up that Cath is the one who vouches for Dane. Now, this is commonplace for, writers to trust each other through giving the seal of approval from their dragon, but it is mentioned twice, and that really made my ears perk up. So is Cath lying or truthing / being controlled?
This is the only supporting point that I can cling to when it comes to whether Dane is telling the truth or not, or where his loyalties really do lie. Again, like you said, like I don't think that he actually knows that he's a Venom, if he was, but there's something going on with Cath. And the way that it is emphasized multiple times that Cath vouches for him, just like you were saying, Nicole, and we already suspect something is up with Cath based on his bad breath from the beginning of the book. There's some puzzle pieces here, and we don't have the full picture yet, but there is something going on that we're keeping an eye on. We can't skip over the fact that Xaden can also vouch for Dane, but he can't say it right here because no one knows how he could truly vouch for Dane. So he might be relying a little bit more on Cath in this instance versus his own ability to be able to vouch for them. So maybe that's where this extra emphasis on Cath is coming from here too. But again, Cath had bad breath, and the only other dragons that we know of who had bad breath are Solus and Bade. And we talked a lot about those two dragons in our last few episodes.
Can you imagine if this was just like an offhanded written thing for like character building, for world building? Like dragons sometimes just have bad breath, and Rebecca Yarros sees that the internet is losing their fucking mind over everyone being like, the bad breath means it's bad. Like I would have such a chuckle at the dinner table with my husband if I was Rebecca Yarros.
You know, right? Oh man. I have to wonder, with Dane having a mind signet, don't you think that he would be particularly good at shields, or at least recognize how important they are at keeping them up? I feel like he should have had his shields in place a little bit more when Xaden approached him. Now, of course, like Varys was dying and Nora had just died as well, but I feel like Dane should have had his shields locked in place a little bit more to prevent Xaden or someone else with the mind signet to infiltrate him. Last little notes here from the assembly meeting. I giggled as Xaden begrudgingly giving Dane credit when it comes to Fourth Wing. Like, Good for him. Our characters are growing. And then also, Xaden specifically does not include himself in the journal heist explanation. Quote, Jasenia helped Violet and her squad steal the journal for instructions on how to use the wardstone. I don't know if he is very specifically not including himself or if it's a little bit of an oversight, but just something that I pointed out there. I also have a question about the scars on Xaden's back based on the information that we learned here. The 3-inch scar over his heart represents him taking responsibility for Violet, of course, and obviously he has his 107 of the same length on his back. Wait a second. 107 3-inch scars on one person's back? I guess I originally thought they were only like an inch or so, and this paints a whole different picture about what it looks like. How is that possible to have that many scars on one person's back and it like be able to tell that they're individual scars and it's not just an entire one big scar on his back?
At that point, it would just be like 1, 2, 3, 4, like, you know, like the 5 with like the cross, like
I guess so.
Like it would just look like a tally mark on the back. Like I always pictured it like slashes and like
Me
some
too.
over the others and stuff like
Me
that.
too.
I think that looks a lot cooler rather than just like tally marks.
Yeah, exactly, but my math wasn't mathing, and it's totally possible, but just a little nugget that I noticed
Now,
there.
you know I'm about to go and draw on a piece of paper 107 3-inch scars and see how big it is.
I can't believe you have that kind of time.
Don't, but I would make time for this math.
With the whole like scar and geometry part of that aside, I just love the inverted representation that his two different types of scars have. 107 for loyalty to Navarre and 1 for loyalty to Orisha. I just think that's very, very poetic.
I also love that this is the one that he chose to have. It's very poetic to their relationship, right? Like the 107, he obviously had a choice, but not really. It was die or do this. And also, I really want to know, what is the Tirish custom behind this? Is it just a mark with a dagger on your body, or is there some kind of magic? Is this like a really different, simpler kind of rune? Like, is there any magic involved in this Tirish custom as well, or is it just a scar mark through a blade? I don't know.
I'm guessing it's more of a scar mark just because there was so much confusion around blood magic. And this, in my mind, would kind of count towards blood magic. I'm thinking that it is definitely more of just a Tirish culture thing that is so embedded in their culture. So when it's done, it has so much weight to it. It is a binding contract, like no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Now, here's what I will say. In Battle Brief, when Ree is like, blood magic? Like, are you like, whoa. She has this moment where she's like, she says, are you sure? And then there's this description of her face where it's almost like horror. And I wonder if there's some kind of like fable from her town about blood magic. And like, she knows something more about blood magic than there is. I think that this is not the only, I don't even know if I can say only time, because I don't know if we even see blood magic in this stretch, because obviously it didn't work with Racing the Wards, but I do think blood magic is going to play some kind of role in our story.
I could see it playing a role in the story from the Venom side of things.
Ooh.
That this is like some like foreshadowing that yes, it might exist, but we do not touch it.
Interesting. I like where this is going. Or maybe with Resurrection, maybe with Brennan somehow.
Maybe we are going to talk about the rune scars in his palm in a little bit here.
Oh, I'm excited. Well, first of all, let's talk about Andarna waking up. I missed our girl.
I did too. I'm so happy. First of all, Nicole and I have speculated a lot about when Violet's second signet manifests and how we lean toward it happening after Andarna wakes up. And this right here is a supporting point to our reasoning. The way in which the bond shimmers when Andarna wakes up and Violet feels whole for the first time since Andarna fell asleep. It makes it feel like their bond itself has been sleeping as well. And if Violet hasn't felt like she's complete since Andarna's been asleep, that just makes it seem like her signet wouldn't have manifested before now.
Agreed. And it really ties back to the same reasoning why we were like, I don't think I See Dead People is her second signet because she is sleeping. It would also mean the same for precognition, at least in results to the dreams. So
Yes.
if the dreams do have anything to do with her second signet, it wouldn't make a lot of sense for the same reasons as we said in last episode in results to she was sleeping when Violet was in her torture era. I agree with you completely. I think the Venom dreams are from the Venom side of things. I don't think they're from precognition. I don't think they're from her second signet. I agree with you now. We are going to be on high second signet alert from here on forward in this book.
Yes, exactly. And as we head to the valley above Orisha where all the dragons are, I want to remind you that the reason this environment still seems like it's fall instead of winter like the town below is because Rebecca has confirmed that the more dragons there are equal warmer weather. So because there are so many dragons now in Orisha, it's going to be warmer in their concentrated area, aka this valley that they now call home. So that is why it doesn't feel like winter. It feels more like fall in this area of Orisha versus the town below where it's clearly winter there. So there's been some confusion about all of that. Rebecca has confirmed in an interview that is why the weather is so different in such a similar area. We get another and Darna is a different color hint when Violet first sees her here. Oh, I'm just so excited.
I love this shit.
Quote, it must be an adolescent thing that they're so shiny she reflects some of the color around her. While I suspected there was something up with her color before, now is when I knew there was a big mystery around what breed or what color Andarna is. We'll discuss her color a lot more later, but for right now, we'll label it as pearlescent. Violet begins describing their bond and Andarna's power as pearlescent, which I just absolutely love. It is so perfect for her. I assume that Violet doesn't think too much of it not being black like her bond with Taryn, who is of course a black dragon, because for one, Violet arguably knows more about younger dragons than anyone, and she barely knows much at all. She just chalks this up to an adolescent thing. And number two, pearlescent, it really does capture Andarna's personality too. So I could see her thinking that the bond represents more of the personality rather than the literal color of her dragon.
I also, for those of you who needed a visual aid of what pearlescent looks like, it's basically like a white, but then the shine around it reflects any colors that are near it, and like
so it's almost like a rainbow. It's like
yes.
it's a beautiful rainbow, and depending on the light, it has different colors. And if you need a visual, go ahead and look it up, and you'll have a big smile on your face because you'll be like, "Of course, that's Andarna's bond color."
In addition to Andarna's coloring, we also get a new character trait from Andarna, and that is her hunger levels. So Rebecca Yarros has mentioned that she modeled adolescent Andarna's eating patterns after her 3 teenage boys who were always looking for food. Maybe not in the form of sheep, but definitely snacks.
My husband is one of 3 boys, and I absolutely believe this. My mother-in-law has shared what their grocery budget used to be when the boys were growing up, and it is equivalent to a few herds of sheep. So yes, I absolutely believe this.
I also love this little tidbit of info from Taryn. Adolescents, they're insufferable when hungry. It's like, you know what? Me too. Like, I'm not an adolescent anymore, but I am. Brett and I actually have a joke. So I get hangry, like, you know, just like hunger, angry. He gets anxious. So he gets hungry and anxious. And whenever he is even remotely hungry, I'm like, here's some snacks. Go, go, go.
After we do these recordings, which are usually between 3 and 4 hour sittings, Nicole, if she didn't eat like a full breakfast, usually it's after lunch at this point. It's like we have to do maybe a few little things like scheduling or talk about a few of the emails that we received, something along those lines. And you can just tell like her hanger is starting to come out. And she's just like says a million times like, I need to eat. And it's like, okay, we'll hurry this up really quickly. But while we're on the phone together, we have to finish this.
Can you tell I have my smoothie with me right here today, but it is now empty. So the clock is ticking. I really do feel for Andarna, though, in this whole book, really. We learned that during her dreamless sleep, because she kept waking up, I love this dragon anatomy, the second set of muscles along the front of her wings did not form properly, or I don't even think they formed at all, because Brennan can't mend what does not exist. So with some strength and conditioning, she will be able to fly, but she will never be able to bear a rider. I really do think that her and Violet are going to fly together in some super heartfelt big moment in this book. Like, yeah, exactly. It'll be like this huge, like, music swells, tears flow. It's too pointed not to be foreshadowing.
I absolutely agree. But again, this is one of those unexpected twists I definitely wasn't expecting in this series, but I just love it because it is unexpected. This sad diagnosis offers so much mystery around Violet and Andarna's future together. It is also very convenient that Violet will obviously be writing Taryn for the foreseeable future. But I agree that the bond between Violet and Andarna is too special and unique for her not to eventually write Andarna. Maybe Violet's second signet can somehow mend her in a way that Brennan's can't, where she can mend what didn't previously previously exist, or she can mend magic in a unique way that applies to dragons, or maybe she can amplify Brennan's power to do it. Again, just kind of tossing out all sorts of different ideas for Violet's second signet here. Or they're able to build a contraption to help Andarna support Violet's weight and flight, like How to Train Your Dragon style. I do agree that something is going to happen, but we just don't know what that will help these two to have that unique bond of truly getting to ride your dragon. I'm just so excited. I really hope that happens. Oh my gosh, it would be so sad if not.
You mentioned How to Train Your Dragon, and I burst into tears. Like that, if that is the case, how that works. I mean, first of all, that's my favorite movie of all time. It is also a dragon and not a wyvern. Proud of you, DreamWorks. But that style of milk, because like, what if Taryn does die and she has no other choice but to ride Andarna, and that's like the moment where she figures something. Oh my God, I'm unwell.
My heart really does hurt for Andarna, but it also really hurts for Violet in this case, because it's not her fault that it is her fault, if that makes sense. Andarna's wing not growing properly is a consequence of a sequence of events. No one made anyone do anything during that crucial time around Resen. Difficult and necessary choices were made between Violet, Andarna, and Taryn, and that has led us here. So yes, I absolutely see how Violet blames herself, but there's really not anything different that could have been done within her power, at least, to make this end in anything else here. So I really feel for her, but it's not her fault that it is her fault in this situation. Orisha has the cadets starting back at Writer's Quadrant 2.0. It was initially weird that 100 or so cadets just choose to leave Biscayeth and fight for the revolution, but then they're just like back at school in a different capacity. It was a little like, I'll call it anticlimactic there.
Now hold on. I've got some math questions. Because Biscayeth has over 600 people attending that school. And they keep on saying that Violet took half of the writer's quadrant at Biscayeth. But there's only 100 cadets.
So it all depends on what part of the year it is, because people die off so quickly. So we know between second and third years, there are approximately 250 of them, approximately. And then there are about, after threshing, are about 100 or so new bonded writers. So you're right. Let's just say there are about 350 writers, and they took about 100. So yeah, so it's not, they took actually a third of Biscayeth writers quadrant, not a half.
So there's 4 wings, 3 sections per wing, and each of those squads have 15 people in it.
But remember, that was at the beginning of the year. This is after threshing.
Okay, that's fair. But still, she only took a third of people.
Yes, she only took a third. So we have 100 cadets who got up and left and chose to fight for the revolution. And now they're back at school, which is a little bit jarring, or not jarring actually, because let's consider it. They are still in military training, and they need to have the best possible training before they face off the Venin. I believe too that even though the Assembly and Orisha, they have definitely separated themselves from Navarre, certain ways of life are embedded in their philosophies and in their society. Being back at school here is familiar, and how they know about going about life. I definitely understand why Emiterio is having everyone run, which kicks their butts in altitude, which I totally get. We live in Colorado, and running here can't be intense. When I visit my in-laws in California, I feel like I can run for miles on the boardwalk because I'm so used to running at elevation, and I just feel like such a badass.
They should have done drinking at elevation and see what that changes. For those who don't know, your drinking tolerance is like minuscule when you're at elevation because of the altitude changes. So people come here and they're like, I'm just going to drink my normal amount. And then they're completely sloshed, to quote Violet.
I also understand the class's battle brief, runes, and flight maneuvers for obvious reasons. Then there's history class, which I can get behind to an extent, since learning the truth about what happened previously can help them all prepare for the present. But my real question here is, why physics class? If there was a war out there and I had to sit through an hour of fucking physics class every day instead of, I don't know, train, I would be so livid. I wouldn't do it. I would straight up not go to that class. And you tell science and math were not my thing in school.
That would be like my favorite class, would be physics. Because then you'd be learning about like physics and dragons and like how, because that's the thing, you learn about the physics in your dragons and how they work together.
No, that's just take whatever you were going to talk about that and just put that into flight maneuvers. Like we don't have time to sit around in this class. We need to learn by practice here.
I will give you that. Put it in flight maneuvers and call it a day. I will totally give you that. I would want to train to learn how to fight venom. That is a very much better.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're right.
Like there are only so many hours in the day. I think that the training needs to take a little bit more of a top priority than some of these standard Bisgayeth classes. That's all I'll say.
We do get back into a battle brief, and it is highlighted that they chose a theater to rebuild inside of House Ryerson. I am curious because it is very highlighted, and even Violet questions it. She's like, why the fuck did they choose a theater like this? And I got a theater degree. I would love a theater, but maybe if we were in the middle of a war, that would not be the first thing I would choose to rebuild. But for this reason, did they want to rebuild it because it's the only place that can hold large meetings? Is it and just another nudge at like Tirish culture and how they're much more about like, arts and leisure, as opposed to Bisgayeth, which is about like death and destruction and torture.
I like to think that the theater represents what Orisha is trying to bring back. Like you said, culture, arts, entertainment, ultimately something to live for, Like this is the reason why they're fighting. It is to have beautiful things like this.
One question I do have is, do they have hired actors or ballet dancers or whatever, like to perform in said theater? Or is the theater just like a ghost light? Like, so for those of you who don't know, when the theater is dark, like there's nothing performing there, there's nothing there. It is tradition to put a ghost light on the theater, which is basically just a singular Edison light bulb to ward off any theater ghosts. It's just weird.
Really?
That we have. Mm-hmm. Yes. And let me tell you, I've been in some very haunted theaters. That shit does not work. Let me tell you. But like, I wonder, do they have artists performing there, or is it just
it's the assembly, like ultimately, yes, they're leading the revolution, but at the end of the day they all get dressed up and they go and they practice their play.
Ulysses like dons a dunce hat and puts on a Shakespeare solo play.
And Felix is the narrator with his calming voice.
Oh my God, I'm tired.
I don't think the theater has actually been used. I think that it is a symbolic representation.
This is canon. Lexi, this is canon now.
I just gotta insert that disclaimer there because people are actually going to think that we are believing this, and and next thing you know, there's gonna be fan fiction about the Assembly's play. Oh my God.
I would read that.
A series of short stories. Oh man.
The behind the scenes. Oh my God, I'm dying. Back to things that we actually do get confirmed, though, this is canon, is an Isles confirmation. In many previous episodes, we have wondered where the heck the Isles are. And in last episode, we mentioned that someone had pointed this section of the book out to us. This is in Battle Brief. Quote, "The Isles, the 5 large and 13 smaller islands that surround the continent in every direction. Mystery solved. They are not to the north, south, east, or west. They are all the fuck around Navarre." I did a quick count, however. This is the 5th time that the Isles have been mentioned in this book alone. That's a lot.
And the 1,000,000th time in this podcast. We gotta represent those Isles.
If we're not going to the Isles, I will be fucking shocked. I love that they get to choose their own section and squad leaders. Like, it made sense at Bisgayeth that they were chosen for them, but I love that it really shows that the Assembly is like, we are teaching you to go to war and you need to be able to make decisions on your own. And it's not I'm not going to ever say that Bisgayeth babied them by any means, but it was very much like, let me tell you where to look. Let me tell you what to believe. Whereas
military, very military training there, yes.
Exactly. Whereas here, they're like, we're definitely military training you. However, we're also letting you be adults here. Like, and I really enjoy that. It goes to show the difference between how they're treating cadets in Eurasia versus the Bisgayeth follow the leader method.
There's a little line about Brennan that I want to pull out. Early in the book, I think in chapter 2, when he does the same motion of putting his hands up, Violet notices a rune-shaped scar on his palm. But now in Battle Brief, when he does the same thing, there's no mention of what is on his hand. It could simply have just not included this in the description. Or it is also possible that the rune scar is not there anymore. And if it isn't, what in the world does that mean for Brennan? What I'm saying is, we're watching you, Brennan. There's something you're hiding from us, and that rune scar is a hint.
Oh, I love that a lot. Now, I also know she's sitting further back, So
True.
maybe it's faded, or maybe you can't really see it when she's that far away. But I want to know Brennan's secrets. I'm so excited.
In this battle brief, we learned that there was an attack at Samara 4 days ago after Besgai's departure, but there was only one dragon present at the outpost. So we know that this means that Mira just missed them, and she must have already taken off. Since Lilith flew to Samara and told Mira and the other riders about the big truth, that must mean that she left before this attack too. So anyway, just kind of getting some timelines there for all of us.
Which means that there was only one dragon rider left at Samara? Woof.
No, because there was only half of the riders. We know that there are 18 dragon riders stationed at Samara. So let's say that 9 of them left Samara to go to Orisha. So that means that the other 8 were out on patrol right now. And there was only one that was stationed at Samara at that moment there. Yep.
Now, we do learn that the Venin are living in Zolia. They're heading out on like little missions, for instance, to go and destroy Anka. And then they go back to Zolia to recoup and chill. So what could this mean? Like, why are they using Zolia as the base, knowing that Zolia is also the house of the most amount of Venin knowledge, at least to our knowledge? It is the most amount of Venin books, the most amount of Venin tomes are all in Zolia at Cliffbane Academy. What are they doing? Like, do you think they're just like reading these and like trying to see what they know? Do you think they're I would destroy them if I was a Venin and destroy all the knowledge. I know that they took some, or at least as many as they could carry when they fled Zolia, when they fled Cliffbane Academy. But like, I wonder if that's any reason why they are basing out of Zolia.
I hadn't thought about that. I was thinking that the Venin chose Zolia as their home base because it is one of Poromiel's biggest cities and it has all of the resources that they would need to use it as a base. Plus, it has great proximity within Poromiel. It's a prime location to start venturing out and taking over other towns and then coming back in and regrouping. Zolia is on the Stonewater River, and there's been a concentrated recent activity going up the river and toward Navarre, so that might be another great reason why it's a prime location. They are gaining power for the big Navarre attack. I really do think that the more power they get, the more they're able to create wyverns, and it is just like they're just building and creating a full-blown army as they use all of this power that they've been draining through the surrounding areas. I also have to wonder, are they taking recruits? We know that Venin have previously targeted unbonded griffin flyers to tempt them with power. They could both be draining these Poromiel lands and towns, plus they could also be recruiting and training Venin right there at Cliffbane's Academy. Like maybe they even chose Zolia because it has the academy there. And we know that Venin have a full system with recruits and students and training and all of that. So why not do it all here?
Fuck, I think you're right. Oh, man. So as we learn about the riot of dragons heading their way, they're in the middle of class and Taryn like bursts into Violet's mental archives and is like, there's a riot of dragons heading their way. Also, does Taryn just have like the good news where he gets every single bit of information but 50 seconds before everyone else? It's like even Marb, it takes Brennan a second before he has like a full-blown That's So Raven moment where he like looks off to the side like he's talking to Marb and then comes back into a battle brief. But like Taryn gets it way earlier. So is it just because of Sigale, which is highly possible, but he can't communicate with her. He just like feels her feelings. But anyway, that was just
I bet that's exactly what it is. Yeah. I've been wondering maybe like Taryn was just further out because he's just the bigger, more powerful dragon. So maybe he had his own patrol out there. But I do think that it's definitely Sigale. He picked up on Sigale, and that's how he knew before anybody else.
He is also just the bigger, more powerful dragon. So maybe he like has supersonic radar where everyone else just has like regular radar. But Arik says, can Taryn take Coda? And Violet's inner monologue says, quote, I don't even want the answer to that question. Do you think we're ever going to get a Taryn/Coda battle in this series? I fucking hope so.
My gut, Clegane battle.
Clegane?
You know, my gut does say yes, that we will see this, even though they're kind of sort of on the same side right now. They're extremely reluctant allies right now, though, Taryn and Coda. Plus, Coda knows Andarna's secret because he's the elder of their den. Remember that Violet does get that confirmation from him when she asks if he will light the fire as the Black Dragon representative. But I'm like, Violet, I don't really want to know the answer to this question because I don't think Taryn would beat Coda. And Terrence suspiciously quiet, which makes me believe he also doesn't think that he would win that battle either.
I think you're right. I super think you're right. Now it's time to talk about our favorite older sister re-entering our story again. When you heard Tyne leads the riot, and by the way, we hear the audiobook says Tiny. However, Rebecca Yarros has confirmed that she uses Tyne. We're going to go with Tyne just for continuity's sake. So Taryn says Tyne leads the riot. What did you think in this moment? Did you think that Mira was joining the revolution or attacking?
I thought for sure she was attacking. But then I was thinking like once when she would see Brennan, she would slip up and get extremely conflicted, and there was going to be that whole reveal and she was going to be literally switching sides or at least pausing her attack to learn some more information. I was pleasantly surprised that she and this riot were joining the revolution. But I was very, and am still very shocked that Melgren just let them go. Speaking of shock, though, I couldn't believe when Taryn takes Tyne's throat just like Solas's. Like he says, like, don't worry, I'm not actually like, getting into the scales. But it's just like, whoa, dude.
Taryn is like, I've had it. I'm in charge of a teenager now. I have no patience anymore. He just has had it with life. Now, I was also very shocked when we heard about Melgren just like letting them go. And I wonder, there's two headcanons that I have here really, which is simultaneously one, it's face value. They let them go because they knew they were going to find out eventually. I mean, wyverns were dropping out of the sky. Like it was raining. Like it's raining men. It was raining wyvern in that moment. There's one side of taking it at face value, which to be honest for me is kind of like plot bandages of like, okay, like let's move the story along. This is a good way to do so, which is fine. It's fine. It's whatever. We have to have some of those in a story as dense as this one. But the other side of it is there is some kind of ulterior motive where, they sent some people, if Melgren is in the Venom breeding game, they sent some people who are Venom who they can control, and they're almost like inside spies. I don't think Mira is one of those people. I do think she's innocent here, but I could see that being the case so that they know what they're doing on that front.
Yeah, the matter-of-fact way that the truth has come out among all of the writers, it's still a little hard for me to wrap my head around. And Violet feels this way too, because she repeats back to Mira, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here, but she repeats back to Mira, Mom just told you. While it's explainable that there was a giant dead wyvern leadership couldn't keep hidden, and that letting them go was a safer option than making them stay and do who knows what damage, like, yes, that explanation, it makes sense, but it still feels like the bow was wrapped up a little too nicely, I believe that Melgren let them go, plus didn't punish the cadets' families for their desertion because he has seen a future battle where all of these writers are needed. I'm not talking about Samara. We know these writers were not at the Samara battle premonition, but there must be a future battle he saw right around this time that made him feel like it was okay to let these writers go in order for the future battle to even be able to happen and therefore that they could win. I also like your unhinged Venom Melgren theory too, like infiltrating, like who knows?
I'm really struggling with the idea that Melgren is in the Venom game. I definitely think Atos is. Don't know about Melgren just because of the end Melgren scenes that we get from Athbean to the ending battle. It just doesn't give me I am working with these guys.
I agree. And I've said it on previous episodes, and this is just a really great quote here from Sirius Black. I'm paraphrasing here, but not all people are divided into good people and Death Eaters. In this case, too, not all people are divided into good people and Venom. There are definitely some bad characters who are not siding with the Venom. Yeah. We got our Cornelius Fudges. We got our... We got our Dolores Umbridges and all of that here too. So I do think
in this instance our Dolores Umbridge is Venom. though. I do think
okay,
so.
Yes, our Dolores Umbridge comparison. Yes. So in this case, Melgren is Rufus Scrimgeour and he is definitely not a Venom. I don't think that he is because again it goes back to not everybody is a Venom, and that would feel a little cheap of a storytelling if all of this leadership ended up being a Venom. I think Varys was. And I do think at Atos, either he is or he's working very closely with them with his own agenda. But yeah.
But Atos is also stupid enough to be in the Venom game, whereas I don't think Melgren is. I think Melgren's a lot smarter than we've seen him be.
Yes. I think that we're just starting to really get to know him, and he'll play a bigger role. Yeah.
Fuck. I'm excited excited for that. I can't wait to see more Melgren. But oh, how times have changed. In the Samara scene with Mira and Violet, this is way back in part 1, she says that Mira is the only person she shares unconditional love with, and that it includes her pool of people being also Xaden. Like, she did not have unconditional love with him then. However, in this scene with Mira, she reaches out to Xaden to confirm what Mira is saying and to see that it is truth. Quote, "Not because I don't trust my sister, but because I trust him more." This really just shows how far they have come in their relationship. I'm so proud of them.
I'm going to respectfully counter that because I think that Violet would have said the same thing back in Samara about trusting Xaden when it comes to anything Orisha or Revolution related. That's kind of what I thought, is that I do think that she still had that unconditional love for him. Now, they certainly have gotten a long way in their relationship because now they can actually admit it to one another. But I do think that just the groundwork was laid out so well in Fourth Wing to lead us to this, where she would have said the same thing otherwise. But
okay, I can vibe with that.
My heart once again aches for Violet when she admits to Mira that she needed her. Like, the secrets are out and she can finally be honest with her sister. And I'm just really proud of how Mira owns her mistakes and she apologizes over and over again. She doesn't chastise Violet about not telling her. She only says she's so sorry she wasn't there when her little sister needed her most. And, you know, as a big sister, I really feel that. The guilt and disappointment and not living up to what you're supposed to be for someone you love more than anything, and realizing that you fell short and having to make it up to them in that way of just like, I am so sorry. And I love that that is what Mira is doing here versus gaslighting her sister or doing anything else that she could have easily done here.
You have never fallen short to me.
Oh, thanks, Nikki.
I love you.
I love you too.
Why have I cried twice in this episode? This is not an emotional set of chapters.
Oh, Nicole, I just want to hug you right now.
Why do you live so far away? Stupid 30-minute drive. That's not far. We used to live thousands of miles away from each other.
We did, yes.
But speaking of heartfelt, wonderful sibling moments, Mira seeing Brennan for the first time. Now, we have to remember that Mira and Brennan were always the closer of the three. You know how they say with like any groups of three, there's always two who are closer and there's always kind of like a third who's left out to dry. Violet was always the third. She was younger by several years, and Brennan and Mira were always much closer in age. So of course, Violet and Brennan, they were expecting this beautiful, heartfelt reunion where, you know, Mira like runs into his arms and hugs him. But I love that she punches him instead. This is honestly so fair, and it gives me such Ron and Hermione vibes. I love it.
Wait, like when he returns after Harry encounters the Silver Doe?
Yeah, like, because Ron, like, walks in and she, like, literally Harry has to cast Protego because she's about to murder him. Just, you know, maybe take, like, the love aspect out of it, like the romantic love, and maybe just insert sibling love.
I get that, yeah, for sure. I think I laughed out loud when I read this for the first time. Like, of course Mira punches Brennan for their big reunion. Like, so fitting, just so fitting. And then later on when she's like, yeah, well, it wasn't the first time I broke his nose.
Like, that's such a, like, sibling fight thing. Like, you know, we never got into fist fights. However, there was one time that you tackled me to the ground, but honestly, I deserved it. So it wasn't even that big of a deal. Quick story. So I went to this, like, amusement park, for lack of a better term, and I got a Shocky pen, and I was so excited to prank my older sister. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to prank her. I'm going to give her this pen. She's going to, you know, whatever. So I give her the pen, and she's like, cool, little sister, a pen. Wow, so exciting. And I'm like, click it. She clicks it. The next thing I know, I am on the ground and Lexi has tackled me to the ground.
I have no recollection of this.
Oh, this is a core memory for me. That's when I learned the consequences of my own actions.
I will say that our cousin Allison, she tackled me big time at her rehearsal in the snow. And there's like a live action shot of her literally tackling me. And like the look on my face is just absolutely priceless. We might have to post that to social media or something if I can find it.
Can we please? I love that photo so much. We love you, Allie. All right. Well, speaking of the family is back together again. And right before we focus on these three Sorrengail siblings, really quickly, we learn Riddick's last name, which is Gamlin. And it is Old Norman for word of old, which I just found to be highly hilarious. But I love this line. Back to our three sibs. Quote, and suddenly I feel 10 again, the smallest personality in the room of giants. I'm going to hop on some neurological bullshit for 2 seconds because I'm going back to my roots. When you are around people again, after being apart with them for a while, who were core in your upbringing, it is natural for your subconscious mind to sink back into old behavioral habits from when you were younger. When Mira and Brennan are fighting, the family is back together again. It is so neurologically beautiful. I love this moment where Violet immediately goes back to being the quiet scribe sister in this room of writer giants. Now, Brennan is also blatantly ignoring her, demanding to switch cloths because he's covered in blood, which is gross. And I bet you anything, this is also not the first time that she gets ignored by these, quote, giant personalities. Her inner monologue even says, quote, yep, definitely morphed back to being the silent little sister. I love seeing this, moment of falling back in time for Violet. But then I love her fight against it because she has changed a lot. And when she says, she lashes out on Brennan. She says, switch your damn cloth, da-da-da-da-da. And it says, quote, Brennan is looking at me as though he has never seen me before. Dude needs to open his eyes and start giving his little sister way more credit because he just still sees her as this 10-year-old little girl who's training for the scribes. He really has not seen her as a full-blown writer unless she is mangled and almost dead. So in this scene, however, Mira says to Brennan, quote, let us watch our father's heart give out because your death broke him. And Brennan comes back with, quote, our father would understand what I've been doing. I very much agree with Brennan. I do think he would. We are both very much in agreement, Lexi and I, that Papa Sorrengail was killed by leadership for the things that he figured out post Brennan's death. It probably somewhere in his research, he figured the fuck out of what's been going on. So I bet he would be very proud of Brennan for what he is doing. Do you think that Brennan's death, however, sent Papa Sorrengail on his research mission, or do you think he was already putting pieces together prior to the Battle of Aretia?
Brennan did not think that his dad knew based on the conversation that he and Violet had in chapter 2 or chapter 3 of the beginning of this book. I think that their dad knew about what was going on before the Battle of Aretia, before Brennan's quote-unquote death, because the rebellion was going on. And I think that he is someone who is very intelligent, and he would have understood the reasons why better than the propaganda that was certainly being fed to Navarre. That's my theory, is that he definitely knew all of this before, and then after Brennan's death is when he really started going down the rabbit hole. Possibly that's when he started bringing in the Feathertail research, whatever happened with the second Crovelin uprising, and there's a lot more pieces that he started putting together based on what he learned right around the rebellion time, or before it.
Now there's another mystery, or mystery-ette, I'll call it, in this scene. Brennan screams at Mira, you weren't killed. And then she replies, neither were you. But he was, or was he? And it was a full resurrection. Was this a full resurrection situation? We speculated this a lot in Fourth Wing, and I do believe both of us have fully changed our minds on this. But in Fourth Wing, we were adamant that it was not a full resurrection. Brennan was on the brink of death, and that's how Naolan resurrected him, and da-da-da-da-da. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lex. We've both changed our mind on this, and we do think that it was a full resurrection, and Brennan was fully killed and has since been resurrected, whether that's by Naolan or this rune or whatever. And honestly, with the not so subtle use of this new last name, Aeserai, which literally means resurrection, I really do think that this was a full-blown resurrection situation, and Naolan channeled from the source to do it, thus turning Venom.
I'm 90% in agreement. I still do need to know how the runes on his hand came into effect. Were they part of the resurrection process? Do they keep him tethered to life? Is it rather ominous that the Venom activate the Wyvern with the same kind of use of runes? It is rather ominous that the Venom activate the Wyvern with the use of runes, which has led the fandom to speculate that Brennan is like a human version of a Wyvern that Naolan created. Does it mean, was it he was literally dead, or does it mean that he was on that 0.1% left of life? I think that's what it was. So I'm going to call that a regular resurrection and not a full-blown resurrection. He's dead, but he's mostly dead.
I think I'm leaning more and more towards full-blown resurrection. Maybe this will be another bet for book 3. We'll see. So Xaden sneakily walks into this room and we get another sibling mention from him. He says, quote, "And to think, I used to wish I had siblings." I really think with just how many offhanded, "I wish I used to have siblings," or "I have no siblings, so Garrick is the closest thing to a sibling, da, 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 da." I really think that his mom has another kid with someone else and Xaden has a half sibling. Now, is this going to be a Sloane situation where the sibling comes in and is a dick and a half?
I could see that, yeah, like where they're just two very different people. Now, unlike Sloane and Liam, Sloane, part of the reason why she's such a bitch is because her brother died and she is channeling that anger at the people who she blames for his death.
Now, here's another question I have, and we need to broaden our minds for this question ever so slightly, and that is, what if this is a full-blown sibling and before Mama Ryerson left, she was pregnant with Fenn's second child? So what if the sibling would be after the Eurasian throne? Now, this would be a 10 years younger sibling than him, and also Xaden is the firstborn, so he would most likely have access to the Eurasian throne unless they have different rules here.
No, because her only duty was to make sure that there was one child who reached age 10. So, okay, so...
But what if it was like a, oops, got pregnant, and then
I would have no idea what that means.
Yeah, that's foreign to you.
My guess, however, is that there was no love lost between Xaden's mom and Fenn Ryerson. And I say that because she clearly wanted to get the heck out of there as soon as her duty allowed her to. I'm going to guess that she and Fenn were not having a lot of fun in the lead up to her departure. Now, who knows, but that's just my guess. Like, there's just no love. There was no love. There was no real connection between them, and she just wanted to piece out of there as fast as she could. I, however, am willing to bet that his mom is from Pormeal, and she's Pormelian. I wouldn't even be shocked if she is a Venin, that she turns out to be one, but I think that it makes more sense with everything we know about her, which certainly isn't much, but everything that we do know, and the Ryerson house's warm relationship with Pormeal, especially with their royalty. She did what she was duty-bound to do with the Ryersons, and then she left because she hates Navarre and went on to live her best life and then have another kid. I want to see Xaden have to deal with a preteen half-sibling with the "I hate you all" Sloane energy. Like, that'd be so much better than the ex energy that we get from Kat, I'm going to be honest.
I could totally see that. I could definitely see. I do think, now to quote Xaden, you do not have to love someone or even like them to fuck them. So maybe Xaden's dad and mom had like angry sex one night. They were so mad.
They've been together for more than 10 years.
True.
That's, I don't know. I don't.
It's called passion, Lexi.
Nicole, they were married for more than 10 years beforehand. Like,
wow, what a hopeful glimpse at my future. Thanks.
Just saying.
Let's talk about Xaden and Violet, because I love this moment. Violet comes up to Xaden. This is right after he says, like, "To think I wish I had siblings." He's standing in the doorway. She comes up to him and she says, "Hi." And he replies back with, "Hi." And I'm going to just pull out another Gilmore Girls reference. This is the hi moment with Rory and Jess in season 3 or 4. If you know, you know. It's not as good as Kirk in the Box, but it's pretty damn close. I am, however, dying at Mira and Brennan's responses to this moment of passion between Xaden and Violet. First off, Brendan saying, "Really?" right in front of me. Like, this is giving such a, like, "you're my best friend and you're dating my sister" vibes. I know that they're not best friends, but they've been working together very closely. They're on the assembly together. Shouts to that trope. I actually love it way more than I thought I would. But Mira saying, "This is tame for them. You can't burn that shit out of your head." It kills me.
Okay, listen, I get that this is a romance book, obviously from our earlier discussion in this episode. Come on, you two. You gotta keep it in your pants.
No.
No. Violet's, her siblings are right there. And she just completely forgets when Xaden comes into the room, just like melting into him and just completely forgetting about her siblings, like right there. You two need to learn some boundaries. Like, really, these two lovebirds need to learn some boundaries. You would be absolutely insufferable to be around when you're making out and oogling each other, ignoring everyone else in the room. And Nicole, if you and Brett were like this, I would never, ever see you.
The next time it's just the three of us, I'm climbing that man like a tree just to piss you off. Actually, no, based off of this earlier podcast, you guys know I am not a PDA kind of person in that way. That makes me cringe.
No, you know what? You should do that and just see like how much he cringes, because he is such an observant, like people-pleasing person that he would be so self-conscious about me being in the room, because guess what? He has boundaries.
He does. He really does. I might try this just as a social experiment to see what happens. We'll see. These reactions, however, do really just show how much Xaden trusts Violet. Violet says, quote, "I need the blood of the 6 most powerful riders." Just like out of context. They're like, the fuck? Brennan's eyebrows shoot up. Mira looks like she swallowed sour milk. I'm sorry, Lexi. What was the eyebrow shoot up that you just gave?
Animate all of it, you know?
That was perfect. Oh my god. Now Xaden, however, does not bat a fucking eye. He just immediately trusts her.
Yeah, I love this too. He just fully supports and trusts her expertise. That's what she also needs. Like, she has been really self-doubting and questioning herself, and she needs his full support, and he knows that. And I'm, again, proud of them.
Yeah. They've really grown a lot. They're about to do some going back a few steps in a few chapters, but, you know, I'm proud of them for where they are.
Gotta hold on to
now.
this while we can. Yes,
We
exactly.
really do.
Even though I was just telling them that they need boundaries. They certainly do. The two can coexist. I can be both proud of them for how much they love and support each other, and they need some serious PDA boundaries.
Fuck on the floor. So Xaden, however, we're getting into the raising the wards, at least attempt number 1. And Xaden, he does start taking some major L's right now. So I am all for the protective love interest, you know, trope, like not my woman, you bitch, that kind of stuff. There's some Molly Weasley in there for you, which was weird. But however, blatantly ignoring Violet's decision, or at least her choice in the matter here, this is a major L for our guy Xaden. Everything with Viscount Takaris and just basically saying absolutely that's not happening. It's just
Do you think that Xaden's betrothal with Kat and Takaris' lingering, I'll say, pissiness has anything to do with it, and that is why he's really and truly keeping Violet from that situation, because he knows that it is a lot bigger than her just wielding lightning, that there's a lot of extra context that he doesn't necessarily want to get into.
Absolutely. I mean, he makes Tearish daggers with runes that counteract Kat's signet. Like, he knew that Viscount Takaris, Kat, all of this messiness was going to catch up to Violet, and I think he's trying to protect her from it as much as possible. He's a thinker, that one. Now, I know Xaden does apologize for all of this later, and I immediately forgive him rather rapidly, but I do still have to point out him being a bit of a overprotective Dane moment here. Let's get to this ward stone. Quote, "The shimmering black pillar rises to over twice the height of Xaden and would take all 9 of us holding out our arms outstretched to surround it." All I could think of in this image here was actually at my wedding. We had a very, very small wedding. Like, we had about 35 people present. And one of the things that the DJ had us do is all stand around the dance floor and link arms and just like have a moment of like little ring of trust or whatever. And I looked over at Lexi's husband, Jake. He starts going, "Fa-hoo-do," like from How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Like, everyone was down in Whoville around the Christmas tree because we're all holding hands. It was a Whoville moment. And I look over at my husband and he goes, "Whovilation, Whovilation, Whovilation." And I don't think I've ever seen Jake laugh harder. It was perfect.
Oh man, they're a good duo, they are.
However, I do wonder if we're ever going to find out what the runes on the wardstone mean. Quote, "Etched in the very center, at least 6 feet across, is a series of circles, each fitting within the next and boasting a rune carved in along its path. It's almost the same pattern as the pages of Warwick's journal." I love that it's almost the same pattern. This not, of course, but it's not entirely, because Warwick's a fucking liar. Of course, it goes on to say that it isn't quite identical, but it's in the same positions. Like, Warwick really was the chaos manifester of this first 6. And honestly, not about it, Warwick. Not about it. But I do wonder if we're going to learn what the runes mean, because boy, oh boy, is that curious.
So Violet is interpreting this as the 6 riders putting their blood in one of the 7 designated positions on the wardstone. 6 plus the 1 stone. Just, again, I love the reread on this and picking up on all those little hints that no, Warwick did not give them clear, correct instructions, And even after, obviously this attempt goes wrong for different reasons, but then when they try it for the other reasons, it's like, oh, it kind of works, but it's just not quite there yet. And it's just great to see all that foreshadowing.
It is notable, however, that Bodhi, our guy Bodhi, is one of the 6 most powerful writers in residence. God fucking damn it. I want to learn so much more about him and Garrick. Like, please give me a Xaden POV book so that we can spend more time with them. Now here, I want to point out one thing real quick. We're recording this the day after Rebecca announced on her Instagram that she has officially started writing book 3. She was erasing a whiteboard with a previous book's emotional journey graph. It's literally just like a bunch, it almost looks like mountain peaks, like to figure out what the emotional journey of the book is. That was of a previous book. It's not of whatever Empyrean 3 is going to be called. However, there were a bunch of sticky notes down at the bottom. Were these for book 3 or not? We do not know. But several of the sticky notes overlapped almost like they were 2 POVs. So people have wondered if it is for Empyrean 3, if it's going to be a multiple POV book, more than just the one chapter we get at the very end. And if it is, we might get more Xaden POV in book 3. Hopefully.
I was under the impression, and I don't remember the exact source here, so I might have to look back on this, but she has said in an interview that for the foreseeable future with the books, that the POV chapters will be similar to how the first few books have been, meaning it will be limited POVs from Xaden's perspective.
Until he stops keeping secrets. And the big secret she couldn't write multiple POVs from him was obviously Second Signet intrinsic stuff. So I don't know if he's officially gushed out all of his secrets. We don't know.
I want to know how it's determined who the most powerful writers are. They kind of have to guess, I guess. I don't know. I also love how Surrey points out the strength and power in family lines, referring to Violet and Brennan, plus Xaden and Bodhi. I wonder if this is going to play into it a little bit more. Now, we do know that the Writers Quadrant, they are allowed to marry right after they graduate because it is encouraged that they have legacies, because writers, when they produce new writers, they usually have good powers and all of that kind of stuff. Maybe it's along those lines, but I wonder if this is a little bit of foreshadowing for something later on in family lines or whatnot.
Do you think we're going to get a marriage between Xaden and Violet in this book series?
Maybe.
I can't see it right now, but I can feel it. You know what I mean?
I'm not saying that I actually want this in the books, but just like as someone who has children now, I want to see these two dynamic when they have kids and see how good they are and how horny they stay. I want to see how their relationship changes when they become parents. I'm not saying I actually want that trope in this series because I don't think we're going to get it, and I think that's a good thing, but I just need to see it. Yeah.
What if it's like a 19 years later situation or whatever? It's like many years later, and then it's like them going off to their own Writers Quadrant or their own
Lilith
conscription day.
Brennan Ryerson.
Oh my holy fuck. Oh my God.
Liam Dylan Ryerson. I could do this all day long.
Dylan was the emotional impact to get a second name. Liam would be the name of their kid, though.
Absolutely, yes.
That would undo me. Well, okay, so speaking of Xaden, I know we were literally just giving Xaden shit for being an overprotective ass, but holy God damn it, if he is not flipping supportive in this moment. He has no pity, no disappointment in his gaze or anything after Violet quote unquote fails. I don't think she fails. This is called collecting data. But I love that this little detail, his hand, his Xaden's, is the last to be taken off of the stone, even including Violet. Everyone in the assembly is like, I'm out, I'm done. And then Bodhi drops his, and then Violet, disappointed, drops hers, and then Xaden finally drops his. Like, it is so supportive boyfriend. It's so encouraging. His only reply in this moment is, "You'll try again." It's speaking directly to that determined nature of hers. He's not saying, "I'm so sorry it didn't work," or, anything like that. He's saying, "You'll try again." She is a determined motherfucker, and I love it. He also cuts away a piece of his uniform because he just knows her. It's so beautiful that she would want to keep the scar that this cut will create. Brennan was about to mend it, and she was like, "No, I want to keep this scar as like a reminder." And he wraps his own hand too in solidarity so they have matching scars, and it's fucking perfect.
So cute because I did not pick up on that. I was so honed in on wordstone and runes and all of the magic.
Versus I was like, love, determined, and wonderful supportive boyfriend.
I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but we'll hone in on it here. I love reading this attempt number 1 in a reread because there's so many telltale signs about why it isn't working. Obviously, there's the mistranslation. You're just so close, Violet. It doesn't end up being blood, but rather breath, which means it's not the first 6 writers, it's the first 6 dragons. So crazy how that one little word completely changes the meaning of all of it. Another mistranslation is Iron Rain. It's actually going to be Iron Flame, like the name of the book. And then Warwick's journal states, of course, that it is 6 and the 1, purposefully making the instructions right out Andarna's den. I have so many questions about how this went down with Andarna's den and the correlation to most of the first 6's belief that this ward creation should never be replicated, so Navarre always has the upper hand. But we'll get to that in a later podcast episode. Lastly, the wardstone, it's not imbued. It is not humming with life to even begin with here. So if this group somehow had the right translation and they even had Andarna as the 7th dragon to breathe fire, this still wouldn't have worked because the wardstone wasn't powered for activation. It's one of our favorite parts now. Felix the professor is here. This scene, it really is one of my favorites in the book because it is so eye-opening for us and Violet.
It's so funny because when you read this book for the first time, this is not one of the scenes, or even I'd say all the subsequent Felix scenes are not the scenes I remember, but going back and rereading, it's like, whoa, this is like some of the most important information we learn in this book is in these scenes with Felix. I'm so excited. We also learn how shitty of a teacher Carr was. My guy, Professor Carr, takes his final nail to the coffin and is lowered 6 feet under. Poor dude. But honestly, it's surprising, especially given how Carr stan we were in the first book. But it's really disappointing hearing how Carr was a shithead. Carr was all about increasing the amount of super powerful strikes within a quantity over quality situation, while Felix is all about mastering the basics. It's one of those like, oh, duh moments,
right?
But like, it's so satisfying to read, and it's not something you'd expect because we didn't know any better. Violet didn't know any better. Felix's lessons to me are the promise of what's to come with Violet's Signet. We are about to see, literally, her Signet is playing chess while we were all playing checkers with this, what we thought it was going to be. Like last book, for instance, I never would have thought Violet's Signet was, quote, heaving around boiling oil, but it all makes so much sense now. Felix might be an ass, but holy hell is he a helpful ass. He makes up for being an ass, though, when he says, your lack of aim, of control, it's not your fault, it's Carr's. He's such a good teacher. It does, however, make me wonder, was Carr not teaching her to master her Signet on purpose? Was it his lack of understanding something this powerful? Felix says, for instance, it's because he was scared shitless of Violet. I'm wondering if it might be a conglomeration of all three. I don't know.
I think that it's mostly Carr steering Violet in the wrong direction because he is scared shitless, as Felix says. Or rather, not just so much in the wrong direction, but in his preferred direction, with honing her power to limit what she knew she was capable of. So it's definitely still like getting her more powerful, but not in the expansive and opportunistic way that she could, that would not do Navarre all the big favors that it really needs. It's very concentrated here. I think that both reasons for his bad teaching can coexist. There is probably some general lack of understanding exactly what she is capable of. Maybe he just knows that her Signet is insanely powerful, but not precisely how, like Felix does, and he doesn't, I'll say, care to know more because he has what he needs. He has the weapon that he needs. And that is what they're going to focus on.
I also don't think it's an accident that Carr has, quote unquote, like a typical Signet. His is fire wielding, and it's no offense to our fire wielders, but it's not exactly what you would call an impressive, unique Signet.
I was reflecting on how these common Signets manifest for individuals' core needs, because in particular, I was thinking, what situation did Riddick at his core require ice? Like, and not just with him, but he's a really prime example of, I'll call them element-wielding Signets that are considered a lot more common. My theory is that these common Signets manifest when writers don't have particularly strong needs. They're a little bit more, I'll call it surface level, than our more powerful characters. Like Riddick, I love the guy, but he's not the deepest person ever. And I do think that his Signet reflects that because it's not tapping into something really truly deep within him, because it's just not quite there. I'm not saying that he's not a great character, but it's not there. And I think that is the case for a lot of these other more common Signet people as well.
I do wonder, however, why, what did Liam need that gave him farsight? Why did he need desperately at his core to see further ahead?
I think that might play into his protective nature, where it's almost like as a bodyguard, he needs to be able to see everything that's going on around him and to be able to have that heightened sense there. That was my thought.
That's so good. I do wonder if you can burn out on a Signet like farsight or ice wielding. I could kind of see more, but can you burn out by looking too far ahead too many times, or is it pushing yourself to look even further ahead? That's the burnout.
Possibly. I guess you could ask the same thing about Dane's Signet.
Yeah, I was just thinking
how would he burn out, So how would the Mind Signets burn out?
So many questions around Signet.
I need
an entire Signet 101 book. I just need a textbook on Signets.
There is literally a book called The Study of Signets, and I know that because I have been researching these epigraphs and the authors of these epigraphs, because I am on the hunt to see if Papa Sorrengail is one of the writers of these epigraphs.
I need you to share your research on this, ma'am.
I've just eliminated curators of the scribe quadrant because I don't think that her dad was a curator, because that's Markham. And he was just based at Biscayeth and was really excited to get to use the archive. So I don't think that would make him a curator. So I can eliminate half of those guys. I promise
much.
I don't even know if I have anything to go off of. So far, I don't have much at all because I have to start looking into the meaning of these names. Stay tuned. I'm working on it.
Oh my God, I love you. You're amazing.
To help Violet learn control and safely explore her Signet capability, Felix gives Violet a conduit, which can be a bit difficult of an object to understand, so let's go over it here real quickly. Conduit is a glass orb that fits in your hand, and there is an alloy medallion inside the glass. So how does this conduit work? Terran channels his power through Violet, therefore making her a vessel for this power. When she releases her power, instead of it striking as a lightning bolt where she has no control over it, she sends this power into the conduit. The conduit holds this power, causing it to glow and stay trapped within the glass box. I can absolutely envision that. I bet it's so cool. And the conduit has runes etched into it that Felix wove specifically for Violet to draw a certain power, which means she is indeed imbuing the alloy that Felix placed in there. She'll later switch these alloy medallions out as she continues imbuing them, doing her part to help create these alloy-hilted weapons against the Venom. I just absolutely love that. So as he says, it's kind of like siphoning her powers into this conduit, but it's a little bit different than, of course, a siphoning wielding power, of course. I keep saying this, but I really can't gush enough about how much I love learning about Violet's Signet. There was so much speculation that she was capable of more than just lightning from after reading Fourth Wing, and seeing it play out here on the page, it's just so beautiful. It makes me that much more excited for the future of these books and all of the magic and power that is really going to shine through the pages. Felix explains that Xaden's Signet can control and increase what already exists. However, Violet, on the other hand, can create something that was not there before. It's just quite the comparison of their signets, and goes to show how much more innately powerful Violet's Signet is than even Xaden's shadows. And here's my favorite part. Violet produces pure power in the form of lightning bolts because that's what she's most comfortable wielding. Until this moment, that was the only way she, and us as readers, knew was possible with her power. But it's just more of what she's most comfortable with. So what else can she wield with this pure power, especially from her hands? Just the doors that this just opened is just absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to explore it.
I feel like I don't even know what is capable. I don't have the imagination to figure out what this also could take form in. Because is it going to stick with lightning for the rest of the book? Or are we going to see it in some totally new form in an amp? Oh my God, there's so many ideas. So many ideas.
I wonder if it's not so much of a lightning wielding, but it is more of an energy wielding. And we know that there has not been a lightning wielder in a century, but what if she is more than that lightning wielding? And she actually is more of an energy wielder, which isn't so much of a siphon, because siphons, I think, might be a little bit more closer to Xaden's power, where they have to draw from what already exists.
Yes.
Maybe?
Yes.
Yeah. So while she can create power. She can create energy from nothing. It's so much fun.
I can't wait.
This sequence is also the first time we truly see Violet not just want to hone her signet, but explore its realm of possibilities. Because of Kara's limited teachings, she has had a very narrow perspective about what she's capable of, obviously. And I'll argue that she's been afraid of her signet and the lightning power. We definitely knew that in Fourth Wing, and I do think that is continued here. She hasn't had this curiosity to explore what else she can do with it. She's really taken her power at face value and it's just like, cool, like I can just do some bolts of lightning. I can't aim, but there's that. That's fine. That's all it's been, really. Yes, of course, she's self-conscious that she can't aim, but she just keeps doing the exact same thing over and over and over. And we know that if you keep trying to solve a problem using the exact same method over and over and over, after a certain point, it's not so much you just need more practice. It is you need a new method to get the results that you're looking for here. And I think that this is a great illustration of that realm of opportunity opening up here for her. Yes, she has been training to get faster at her lightning wielding, and she's of course hoping for better aim, but she's only doing what she's told. She doesn't care to explore more than what she's being told to do. Now, however, Violet has to seize the opportunity and prove herself that she wants to learn more beyond just lightning. She's wanting to start thinking out of the box, and that's a really exciting prospect for all of us on Violet's hero's journey.
I cannot wait. There's this line with Felix where he says, "You wielded him," meaning Xaden. If Violet does wield pure power, and Xaden is the most powerful rider of their generation, can she also wield people in that way? Now, there's also a second signet theory where she's influencing over people. I'll say like she almost wields
power of persuasion or something.
Power of persuasion. It would be another mind signet. I'm not sold on this. I don't know if I like this idea just because it doesn't feel very Violet to manipulate, I'm going to say, people. Also because Felix says, quote, "Power isn't only found in our signets." I feel like that kind of separates the two things pretty drastically. I think it's a very cool signet idea, but I don't think it's our girl's second signet or a branch of her power signet here.
This is totally random, but I was just thinking about that power of persuasion or manipulation. That would be an interesting mind signet for Colonel Atos. Just throwing that out there. Now, of course, like Lilith and other leadership would be able to shield him since he cannot persuade them to get out of the coastal outpost. But
you know who wouldn't be able to shield him?
Dane, because he doesn't use his shielding power the way that he should.
Well, and also think about it. In most of his upbringing, he couldn't shield. He couldn't shield until he had a dragon connection. So he only in the last year would have learned how to shield from his father. But also, he was probably so comfortable around him. Oh my holy fuck. What if this is
possible?
Oh my God.
Anyway,
I know Colonel Atos.
You mentioned that, and that's immediately who I thought of. The line about, you wielded him, and this conversation that Felix is having about the power that Violet has over Xaden, I really do believe that this reflects how, I'll say, dangerous their relationship is, and specifically Xaden's honest feelings about Violet and how dangerous it is to the greater cause here that they're all working for with the revolution. Xaden gets major tunnel vision when it comes to Violet. He has admitted this. We know this. Everybody knows this. And especially the Assembly, they also know it, and they're scared about it, which I totally understand. I would be too if Xaden was saying these things to Violet, and it's like, yes, that's very sweet, honey, but there really is other important things out there.
I mean, we see this in the ending of this book. Like, he is so in love with her that he literally turns venom for her. If I was the Assembly, I would also be scared. And I would also be like, oh, honey, you are 23. You have so much life to live. I say this as a 29-year-old.
So Violet has the Xaden Ryerson that everybody is terrified of just wrapped around her finger, and she's very powerful. And yeah, no shit, that is absolutely a recipe for disaster.
Okay, well, I have a question about Felix, and that is, Was he a student 6 years ago, or was he a teacher at Besgaiath 6 years ago? It's stated earlier in the book that he has gray hair. I think it's like mentioned gray hair in his beard or something.
Thick silver beard.
Thick silver beard. But to be honest, maybe he just grayed early. That's definitely a possibility. I'm assuming that he was more along the teacher lines, but what did he teach, since he says, quote, "It seems Carr hasn't changed much in the 6 years since I've been gone." So if Carr was already a teacher, and it doesn't seem like Felix was a Signet professor before Carr, was he an RSC professor?
You know, I was wondering about this timeline as well. It gave me pause because Felix, as we've said, is described as a large man with a thick silver beard, and that definitely does not sound like someone who is about 30 years old. And 6 years ago was also the Tirish Rebellion, and we know that Felix is a powerful writer. He was one of the 6 most powerful writers that are in Orisha. It doesn't make sense that he would be stationed at Besgaiath instead of fighting. My guess here is that he was not a student or a professor. He was a high-ranking officer and traveled to Besgaiath somewhat frequently. I love the thought that he was the RSC professor. He could have easily just been, rotation 6 years ago, since we do know that's how it works from Grady. I do, however, think that he was just an officer, and I believe that we actually do find out that he is a Colonel Felix. And so I think that he was an officer who just very frequently went to Besgaiath because that's what they do.
Okay, I could see that. He does say, "since I left 6 years ago," but he could mean left Navarian military, so that would make sense. So Besgaiath was built on runes. Is this the wards, which would make a lot of sense, or is this something else? Is this something anti-venin related? Is it something dragon related? I don't think it means anything other than face value, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, everything you just said there, it equals the ward stones. Is it dragon related? Yes. Is it anti-venin related? Yes. I did also perk up at this line too, and I'm just kind of shelving that information to see if it comes in handy at a later time. But I do think that it is referring to the ward stone because we know that there are those 7 symbols, those 7 runes around it that ultimately make up the power with the 7 dragon fire.
I think you're dead on the money, but I am also storing that on a high shelf that maybe I can't get for later, but I can ask someone else to get for me. It's one of those high shelves. Like, it's the shelf that I don't need very often.
That's exactly right, yes.
You and I are both very short, so we know that life very well. So the 3 Soaring Gales mission. I fucking loved this. I love this so much.
Violet cares more for those around her than she does for her own well-being, and it's apparent here in her mission to Corden. She even thinks to herself that if she has to stay in Poromil so her friends and family can be safe, then so be it. She has accepted her possible fate here as a sacrifice for her in order to protect the people that she loves. She's always looking out for everyone else. She's trying to protect them from harm. I really feel like there's some second Signet stuff in there muddled in all of that. I'm not saying like her core needs, and one of her core needs is protecting the people that she loves.
God. But for right now, Mira saying, "Yes, Mom," like as a joke, is one of my favorite moments in the book because all of them fall silent. And it is just so awkward. Like, it is so awkward.
And then she follows up with "too soon." And it's like, they're like, yeah, this exchange is something that would totally happen with my in-laws and their family. Yes. They are known for their dark humor. And this, like, Mira would really fit in well with them.
I love your in-laws. So, like, your in-laws came to my 35-person wedding. That's how much I love them. They're amazing. This book should just be called Taryn Keeps Getting Insulted. Like, the amount of times that he has to say, "That question insults me," or "I'm going to pretend like you didn't ask that." Like, Taryn is so #over it. He's taking care of an adolescent. He is now taking care of a 20-year-old who's in love, and he is just so over having to remind people that he is one confident and capable, powerful dragon. I love his confidence. I love his arrogance. I love that he is just so over it.
He is just this poor dad who's doing really, really well in his career, and he's like this kind of big head honcho guy, and then he's got these 2 moody daughters who just walk all over him.
It makes me wonder because I don't really remember a whole lot of childhood and stuff like that, but or at least mom and dad's things, but it makes me wonder what dad was like when we were 2 teenagers, because he had 2 daughters.
I remember quite well, and it was a rough few years for all parties. Let's just keep it at that. I am the very first one to say that I did not make it easy.
Thank God we all like each other now. Okay. I want to live in Corden. Like there's
me too.
Yeah. Like there's a few places in books where it's like, oh my God, I want to live there. There's one place in the ACOTAR universe that I will not say right now, but I want to live there in a fucking heartbeat. But Corden is pretty dope as well. This place has a palace that literally looks like it is glowing. Like, I think about this, like, gorgeous, like, effervescent house, you know? Taryn literally calls this place a poor excuse for a fortress, which, and to be fair, he is not wrong. It would not be helpful in the slightest in battle. But God damn it, it sounds beautiful. It's right next to a blue-green sea. It's right on the beach. This place sounds like my heaven.
I absolutely agree. I love how these descriptions show just how contrasting Navarre is as well. Despite its wards, Navarre is a military-focused society dedicated to self-preservation. They believe in practicality over beauty, and the stark contrast really shows here with these reactions to Corden, especially because, make no mistake, Corden is in danger of the Venin. They are like in their line of sight probably. They're very close to wherever the Venin are, and hence why Takaris wants Violet, which of course we'll discuss a lot more in next week's episode. Also, I have to ask all of the fans out there, where is the fan art for Corden? I've been keeping an eye out for it, and I haven't seen any yet. I do like my frequent check-ins on Pinterest, and I've been looking on Instagram and all of that. I have not come across any yet. So if you find any, or if you have created some, please send it to us, tag us. We want to see this location.
I've seen a lot of Violet's Deverly silk dress.
Me too.
So beautiful. I
don't know. I think it could have used some color, but that's just me.
Oh my God.
I'm kidding.
That sounded catty, Lexi.
Oh, man. I'm going to need a few drinks before we talk about next week's episode with Kat.
Maybe next week is finally the week we do an episode drunk.
With the mimosas. I think I might need it.
I love these lines on a reread. Brennan notes that it looks almost like they were expected on their arrival in Corden because there's 36 people watching them from the balconies, in addition to 3 griffins and their flyers blocking the entrance. Of course this makes sense because Xaden caught wind that they were arriving from Sigale and Taryn's connection, and he went ahead and, you know, told his good old friend Viscount Takaris that they were expecting. And I love those lines on a reread. It is time to talk about some griffins and their powers because we get so much griffin download right now. They call their powers gifts, not signets, because from what it sounds like, they have multiple, but they have one main one. Am I correct here?
You are, yes. So it's essentially like signets, but they just don't call it that. I love that they call it gifts because in Navarre, people really are labeled for whatever their signet is. It is their identity. Carr made that very clear where he was literally calling Violet a signet. However, in Poromil, they call them gifts, and it's not so much of a label as this is what you are, this is what defines you, but it is part of it. Their lesser magic is also a lot more heightened and more strong than dragon lesser magic, I think partly because they just need to use it more frequently. And I think that because there's, I'll say, a little bit more of a gray area between their signet power or their gifted power, as they call it. There's not as much of a distinction between like, okay, this is the less power that you have, and then this is like your shining one power. I think that the waters are a little bit more muddied, and I love that because the power that they have is more fluid. It does not define them in the same way that it does with dragons. And yes, it is their gift, but they also appreciate the other magic that they also possess.
It is also very interesting that the focus is on mind signets, or mind gifts, I guess. Like, especially given how, I'm going to say, not anti-mind signet, but hyper-controlled mind signets are in Navarre, how they are just so frequent among flyers. It does make me wonder, how do they trust anyone as a griffin flyer? I would not trust a fucking soul because they all can just fuck with each other.
Well, especially once when you bring in, because I think that the shields, the dragon riders' shields, don't work against their mind signet powers. Isn't that right? Because Violet has her shields up, and yet Kat is still able to go in and mess with her emotions, and it isn't until Xaden gives her the rune that then stops Kat.
So do they all just like walk around with these runes then? But then would that cancel out their own signet.
I don't know if I'll say that mind signets are a lot more prominent, because you have to remember there are a lot of mind signets in Navarre as well. But I think that it's just how they're being used. Like, we haven't seen the Griffins in an outright battle against the Venin really a whole lot yet, where other powers, other gifts that they might possess, they're able to really utilize. So I think that we just have been in situations where people with those mind powers are a lot more prevalent. I mean, we've met characters who just have those. That might just be a coincidence of how we're being introduced to these characters in the stories.
And also, like, apparently Kat and Serena are powerful enough to have survived Resin. So we know that they're at least really good flyers. But
I want to know what Serena's power is, what her gift is. Or here's another thing. Do all Griffin flyers have those heightened gifts? Or maybe Serena, she is still powerful, but she doesn't have like that one, I'll say, gift that really stands out for her. And maybe that's more why they don't label themselves as that, because some of them have these heightened powers and some of them don't. But it doesn't matter, because they all find themselves on that even playing field.
Oh, I like that line of thinking. I'm massively shipping Mira and a Griffin flyer. Doesn't matter which Griffin flyer. Rena, her cousin, I don't care. I want someone of a Griffin flyer, of Poromil descendants. I want them with Mira. She just really seems to speak their language with her hostility. She just... we'll talk about this more next episode when Mira and Serena are talking, and she's like, oh, like your cousin, he's not really your type. Like, he wouldn't really go for Griffin, or he wouldn't really go for a Dragon Rider. I hope that happens. I could totally see it.
I would hope so as well. Yes, absolutely.
Honestly, I'm shipping Mira and Serena. I would die for that duo. I
am absolutely as well.
To close out this section, it is time to talk about Xaden taking a massive L. This is actually the start of his L's that he's going to take in just a few short pages in this book, but man, oh man, does he really pack them in. So earlier in this chapter, Violet laments that she almost misses when Xaden wanted to kill her because he wasn't so overprotective. Just think about that for a second. You miss when your boyfriend wanted to kill you so that he wasn't so overprotective. And then in Corden, when he walks over to her and he's like, you're not where I left you, Violence, he looks like he is about to commit Shadow Daddy murder. So, be careful what you wish for. She actually literally even says, guess I should be careful what I asked for. But this line, you aren't where I left you, Violence. I mean, first of all, it's a great chapter sentence ender. But it is not a good look for Xaden. In only a matter of pages, she is going to say that he reminds her of Dane. Ooh,
that's quite the insult.
That's a big old insult right there.
That is like you're acting like your mother kind of insult.
But honestly, he deserves it. He deserves to be compared to Dane in that moment, because he's acting like an overprotective ass and not letting her make her own goddamn decisions like a goddamn adult that she is. Luckily, unlike Dane last year, Xaden, however, does listen to her and immediately shifts his behavior once he sees her in the Diverly silk dress, and he, gets his face slammed in a door from the "you are acting like Dane" comment. But we are not there quite yet. So Xaden, I love you, but this is not your best stretch of chapters.
Yeah, you better watch out, Xaden. We are going to be talking a lot about your losses, taking those L's in the next episode.
Yes, we will. Before we move into our next section of the podcast, we have to do our gravity count, which in this stretch, we only have one mention of gravity. It is when Xaden pulls his shirt down and exposes his scar on his chest. This is where gravity shifts for Violet. Note, this is the first time in results to Xaden that he has not been deemed the center of her gravity, something that pulls her down to earth. This is the first time, and note, it's right after a Venom dream, which is interesting. This is the first time in results to being with Xaden that her gravity tilts or shifts. So I just thought that was interesting. But gravity and Xaden and Violet counts, I believe, are up to 4 for the whole book.
Now let's move forward to foreshadowing, where we take additional lines and parts of the book and share how they are or might be foreshadowing for later parts of the book or series. So to kick us off here, the Venom in Violet's dream says, "And the longest night has yet to pass." Yes, indeed. The big battle happens on the winter solstice, aka the longest night.
A long night indeed. When Violet is going down on Xaden, I had to pull a foreshadowing out from this moment. She says, quote, "How is every inch of this man perfect? There has to be a flaw somewhere." Well, he is hiding a big old secret from you, which when you do find out, I could consider it a flaw, and that is that he is an intrinsic. You just don't know it yet.
When going to the assembly chamber, Xaden and Violet pass by Arik, who says, "What now, Sorengale?" And Xaden says in their mind-to-mind speak, he isn't asking about the schedule. Nope, and he probably knows this because he can read minds. I bet you that Xaden is absolutely reading Arik's mind because he does not like him. He does not trust him.
Yet. I hope a major friendship stems between those two. I'm really, really naively hoping for that. When Violet is going up to see Andarna for the first time after she wakes up, there's a mention of the mouths of the caves to the west. We are going to be in those caves in just a matter of chapters. Also, Violet describes Andarna as kind of ... green. We will see many colors for our girl Andarna and learn that she's almost a chameleon-like character.
Terrence says, "You cannot mend what does not exist." We will see this with Sawyer and the leg that unfortunately no longer exists for him too, when it is hoped that they are able to mend it. But I also wonder if this is a promise for a more powerful Signet we'll see later. We wondered a little while ago if maybe there is a way to mend what did not exist, or a way to mend magic, or some kind of, I'll say, elevated version of this mending Signet.
Ooh, I like that. Violet about the journal, quote, "I've translated the section we need 3 times and I think I'm close. Dane will literally be shocked that she just translated the section we need, or the passage about the Wardstone activation, and not the whole book." And honestly, I'm with Dane on this one.
Yeah, me too. Like, I can definitely see her like zoning in on that section at first, and then it's like, okay, then we need the greater context. Now, of course, it takes her a while to translate, and she doesn't have a lot of time, so I can understand her priority of just focusing on the section, but Violet ultimately should know better. When placing their hands on the Wardstone, quote, "It's colder than I expect." Yep, Violet, because it hasn't been imbued. We talked about this too, where it needs to be imbued for any of what they're doing to activate this Wardstone to actually work.
And last but not least, this is possible foreshadowing. Taryn and Violet are talking about the indefensible nature of the palace of Corden. And Violet thinks, quote, "It will fall should Venin choose to take it." I do wonder if the city of Corden, specifically Viscount Takaris, is going to fall to the Venin at some point, maybe in book 3. Maybe he'll travel to the Isles. Maybe he'll be like, yeet out of
I can totally see him doing that. Yes, absolutely.
He would. He's a coward. Now, let us step into the archives, where each episode our favorite older sister Lexi educates us on a prominent world-building topic from this stretch of chapters.
So today's archives topic is everything we know about the Revolution, and more specifically, the Assembly. So let's kick it off with the Revolution and its mission. The Revolution, note that I'm not calling it a rebellion. It stands in opposition to the Kingdom of Navarre. It is continuing Finn Ryerson's Tyrrendor Rebellion. These efforts have been in secret over the past 6 years, and this revolution is both allying with Pormail as they actively fight the Venin invading their lands by supplying them with Venin-killing weapons, and preparing for when the Venin inevitably arrive at Navarre's borders. The revolution's primary focus has been securing more weaponry and searching for the weapon that killed off the Venin 600 years ago, which we know nothing else about. It drives me so crazy how I keep mentioning this in archives and don't have anything else to say about it. The best way to secure more weaponry is to get a forge up and running in Orisha. However, that requires a luminary for such a forge, and the only other one in existence that we know of is in Viscount Takaris' possession in Corden, hence why they're there. Orisha has had the opportunity twice now to secure the luminary in Corden, or at least have had access to it, but Xaden refused both deals. The first deal was marrying Kat, which he broke off the betrothal over a year ago, right before he started his 3rd year at Basgiath, and the second time was more recently when he refused to bring Violet to Takaris for him to see her wield lightning. So, without the luminary, and therefore no forge of their own, the revolution is very reliant on their connections to Basgiath to smuggle weapons out. They're in a catch-22. They need more recruits for the revolution and to supply more drifts to even have a chance against the Venin in the next year, but they don't have enough weapons to supply these hypothetical recruits and all the drifts that they are needing to supply right now. They also can't smuggle more than they already are Navarre from Biscayeth. They're really kind of at their limit here with what they're already getting out of Biscayeth, or were getting out of Biscayeth before Xaden and Violet took all their connections and skipped on out of there. The Assembly has discussed taking Biscayeth's forging device for themselves and their poor male allies if they're this close to losing the war. Brennan, however, is particularly against this because then Navarre can't replenish their alloy supplies at the outposts, and that will lead to the wards falling for everybody. Remember, the powered alloy keeps the extended wards going. If they can't replenish this alloy, the wards lose that necessary power and then falter. Ultimately, the revolution is on a time crunch with Venin quickly gaining traction in Poromil. It's a very real possibility that the tides will turn too far in the Venin's favor to ever even have a chance at beating them. Xaden actually secretly believes they are 50 years too late already. While the revolution is dedicated to protecting and fighting for the continent, the Assembly has some conflicting standards when it comes to protecting Navarre's citizens. Ultimately, their actions and goals are supposed to align with defending Navarre's citizens against Venin, but they refuse to come to Navarre's aid when called upon because they consider its leadership to be their enemy in addition to the Venin. It would seem hating Navarre's leadership is more important to the Assembly than actually saving citizens. Not a good look. Luckily, we have voices of reason like Violet to push against this later in part 2, and the revolution does save face, indeed coming to Navarre's aid at Biscayeth. So, we're talking about this Assembly. What is it? The Assembly is a seemingly democratic leadership of the new revolution. Its 7 members are made up of 4 men and 3 women, and they're all bonded dragon riders who we can assume turned from Navarre before or during the previous rebellion. Their headquarters are at Ryerson House in Orisha, and the Assembly allows for a quorum of 5 members to convene a vote. Because it's uncommon for all 7 members to be present together, a majority of 4 votes passes a motion. 2 of the Assembly members lead the revolution's armies, and ultimately the Assembly is a committee that strategizes and leads the revolution together. Now, let's learn about each of the 7 Assembly members. Number 1, we have Major Ulysses Ferris, aka Hawknose to Violet. He's an older man with an eye patch and a hawkish nose, hence Violet's nickname for him. He has thinning gray hair and deep lines in his lightly tanned, weathered skin. His jowls hang like a wildebeest. Kind of sounds like my dog.
He does.
He's said to be quick to make decisions, and he's rather hot-tempered. Go figure. His dragon is a green swordtail named Fan. He ends up teaching physics to the cadets who go to the side of the revolution. I already went on my whole tangent about why physics should not be a productive class here. But anyway, General Melgren enlightens us that he was believed to be dead from the rebellion 6 years ago. This makes me wonder the circumstances of the other Assembly members and why they hid during the Navarrian leadership meetup. Remember, 2 of them did go into the woods and hide with their dragons. So I wonder if they were still playing dead, so to speak. That's my guess. Now on to the second Assembly member, Suri. She is described as a wide-shouldered brunette with olive skin and a single streak of silver in her hair. She is the most outspoken of the Assembly in her dislike for Violet, or I'm just going to call it hate for Violet because that's what it is. And wow, that's really saying something because most of the Assembly members do not like Violet whatsoever. While I don't believe we know her signet, she is considered one of the 6 most powerful riders in Orisha, and Suri's dragon is a brown club tail. Suri and Ulysses are the 2 who command the revolution's army that I mentioned a little while ago there. Now moving on to number 3, Felix, aka Silverbeard. He's a large man with a thick silver beard, ebony skin, and a calming voice. While I don't believe we know his signet, he is also considered one of the 6 most powerful riders in Orisha, like Suri. He's one of the few who was not outright anti-Violet when she arrived in Orisha for the first time, and so you could say that he's a Violet sympathizer. He is considered the most reasonable and level-headed of the Assembly members, and Felix becomes Violet's new lightning-wielding teacher, and he quickly proves to be a million times better and more helpful than Professor Carr. The 4th Assembly member that we have here is Kylan, who is nicknamed Battle Axe in Violet's point of view. She is an older woman built like a battle axe, of course, with a square chin, short blonde hair, and alabaster skin. She is another one who is definitely not a fan of Violet. She takes over flight maneuver training once the cadets arrive in Orisha. The 5th Assembly member is Trissa. She's a petite woman with glossy black hair and umber skin, and she is the most soft-spoken out of the Assembly, but she also has the sharpest tongue when she's pissed off. She is considered the most patient out of all of them, and because of this, she ends up teaching the new class for cadets in Orisha, Tirish Runes. The sixth member of the assembly is Brennan Sorengale, aka Lieutenant Colonel Aserai. However, the assembly members do know his real identity. Aserai, remember, translates to resurrect in Tirish. He is the tactician of the assembly and has a preceding reputation for being a brilliant strategist. When they set up the Traders College, Brennan takes the place of the Scribe Quadrant Curator, aka Markham's position, since they don't have anyone else for the role in Orisha. And last but not least, we have the seventh assembly member, Xaden Ryerson, the heir apparent to Ryerson House of Orisha. He may be the youngest and assumably lowest rank, but he is the most powerful rider, head of Orisha and technically Tyrrendor, and he is symbolically the leader of the revolution. That is a wrap on today's archives and the current revolution and the assembly and its members.
Bless you, sweet, wonderful soul, for the research you do on these sections. Thank you. Last but not least, it is time to take flight with our favorite moments from this stretch of chapters. Quote, "Now this is a view I could be more than happy to wake up to for the rest of my life." I love these peaceful moments in their relationship where they just get to be happy. Damn it!
Violet admits to Xaden that she thinks she fucked up. He corrects her, saying that they fucked up. But then he does follow with, "doesn't mean we weren't right." I feel like we can all relate to this, right? Feeling like we fucked up, but at our core, we know what we did was right. Maybe just not the method of how we went about achieving our goal was the best possible avenue of doing so.
In the assembly chamber, when Hawk Nose Ulysses looks pointedly at Xaden and Violet's joint hands, Violet gets all self-conscious for like the first time in this entire book from
right?
And she pulls her hand away and, quote, Xaden sighs like I'm the biggest problem he has and snatches it back. I can see that so vividly. Like all hell is erupting for them and he just goes, and like grabs it back. I love it. Battleaxe says, quote, "Gods, you brought us Atos and scribes. It's not like we can send them out to battle Wyvern and Venin." First and foremost, they also sent them 97 other riders from the Riders Quadrant. Like, what are they, chopped liver? And also, what a dig at Dane. Like, I love seeing Andarna and Sigale's relationship and how they kind of gang up on Taryn. Taryn says, quote, "I told you to be patient," to Andarna, and she levels this look on him, and Sigale huffs in appreciation towards Andarna. Like, I love that so much.
I really love when fantasy worlds bring in everyday logistics, and Rebecca does that here in Orisha with Brennan's concern over the sheep population, because this really would be a real problem that they have to solve for. This reminds me of George R.R. Martin, who has stated A Song of Ice and Fire partially stems from his love for Lord of the Rings, but he made sure to include political intricacies as a differentiation for his world. Tolkien glossed over the logistics of ruling kingdoms and all of that, but Martin wanted to know about the how kingdoms ran. And I like seeing a little bit of that here with Brennan's concern about how to feed all of these dragons. It's just a little glimpse into real life problems that they would experience, but fantasy worlds, they don't necessarily have to talk about this kind of stuff because they're always focused on like the bigger picture, right? So I just love that addition there. Devera coming in as Teacher of the Year again. She's telling all these traitor cadets how proud she is of them for doing the honorable thing. And a quick little addition as we're talking about teachers. I love the detail that Kaori stayed at Basgiath because his place was with the Empyrean, not with Basgiath, not with Navarre, the Empyrean, the dragons he has dedicated his life to studying.
I would love a Kaori point of view story. Like, it would just be this guy happy as a clam running around with dragons. Like, that is the true dragon tales that I want. Like, I love that so much. Violet asks if Iron Rain means anything to Taryn, which he says, should it? And Darna says, quote, "Clearly, or she wouldn't be asking." And then Violet goes on to say, "I can practically feel Andarna's eye roll." But then Andarna goes on to say, "Ooh, sheep." Like, she just gets distracted, and I love that. And Taryn, this is my favorite little passage. Taryn says, quote, "They will not stay down if you keep stuffing them in like that." Like, he's just such a disappointed over it dad, and it's perfect. Speaking of these two, Taryn saying, "That question insults me." And Andarna says, quote, "Can you carry a luminary while insulted?" Like, I
this is
love it.
really not making me excited for my daughter to become a teenager.
Your daughter's practically a teenager right now. I have a Christmas story real quick to share actually from this year. We were all just chilling like right after unwrapping presents, and the kids have had like a big day at this point. Like they've been, like absolute gems. And all of a sudden little girl starts, having her like start of a I'm tired temper tantrum, and then she lays down on the ground almost like a child's pose situation, and then full-blown pancakes out and just starts absolutely losing it. But then she looks up at Lexi to make sure she's watching, and then continues absolutely losing it on the ground. And Brett and I were on the couch just covering our mouths because we were laughing so hard. It was so funny.
And like that happens all the time. There's no reason for her temper tantrums except to get attention. And she's my little drama queen, and I love her.
She's amazing. I love her so much. Now, Taryn, quote, dropping out of the sky like a damned meteor. Like, I see that so vividly. I love that little moment. And quote, this is describing Felix. He watches me with an expression I'm too jaded to call compassion. That is just such a good literary line. Like, it's not he watches me with compassion. It's I'm too jaded to call this compassion. Like, you can just see that so vividly. Well done, Rebecca. Well done.
The whole scene where Felix helps Violet unlock what she's capable of with her lightning signet. I know we've talked about this at length, but a few little nuggets here. Of course, it does not come without its jabs. Would it help if I painted them? Speaking about the boulders, I love that little retort there. It's like, that's just like kicking off the lesson where it's like, oh boy, we got to buckle in here for Felix's lesson. And then how he ends their lesson by saying he'll only teach cadets who want to learn, and that Violet has to show him that she truly wants to. Again, that's calling back to Violet has to prove that she is really and truly curious to tap into her expanded power here rather than just doing what she's told to do.
I love this line from Felix. Quote, what you want to be doesn't change what you are without work. This is just good, like life coach Felix coming into play here. This is just good life advice, and I love it so much.
I do as well. Very, very on point for you.
I honestly, like, I would make that another one of my little painted canvases quotes up here. Absolutely.
Mira being such a big older sister and doing her best to make up to Violet that she didn't believe her about the Venom and Wyvern earlier. She admits that she likes protective Xaden because he keeps Violet more safe, and it's just all that big sister energy that I absolutely love.
I love when Violet asks Taryn to, quote, stop intimidating the Griffins, and Taryn replies with, I can't help their inferiority.
We're going to talk a lot more about the Griffin and Dragon and the Flyers and Riders dynamic in the coming episode.
Oh, I cannot wait. And then last but not least, we got some cute sibling shit, and that is Brennan putting Violet in between him and Mira and, quote, some things never change. That's accurate.
All right, and that is it for today's episode, friends. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 7 here of our Iron Flame coverage. Next episode, we will be diving into chapters 41 through 44. It is going to be a big episode. I feel like we just say that about every episode, but there's a lot that happens in this next episode.
So people know that is Viscount Takaris' house, and that is the hike up the cliffs of Draelor. I am not looking forward to doing the outline for that chapter.
We're going to have to limit how much we talk about Kat because we're going to have so much to say about
Honestly,
her.
yeah. At that point, it'll just be repetitive parrots talking. As always, thank you to our executive producer Hayden for being just the best human and for being our sanity manager. We love you.
And like we said at the top of the episode, if you are interested in more content, if you want more community to connect with, please join our Patreon party. We have those 2 tiers, and you can go to the link in our show notes or YouTube captions. Speaking of more content, we are starting a monthly newsletter here in the new year. By the way, Happy New Year, everybody. We got so into our episode that we never said that. And, we usually try to keep the holiday stuff out just for evergreen content. But Happy New Year. Welcome to 2024. We are starting a monthly newsletter this month. So if you want our podcast and event schedule, if you want recommendations for other fantasy books, if you want to support small businesses, please go ahead, sign up for our monthly newsletter. You won't regret it.
Friendly reminder also that if you want to rep that OG Fantasy Fangirls logo, if you want to show that you are the OG fantasy fan, when you find a musician like right when they start and then they get really big and you're like, I was with them when they first started. If you want to have that energy, but you want to rep it on a t-shirt, go to the link in our show notes to check out our merch store. You have until January 19th, 2024 to get that OG merch, and then it is all going bye-bye, and the new logo is in to stay.
And if you are not following us on Instagram and TikTok, what are you doing? Go ahead, give us a follow at Fantasy Fangirls Pod.
Also, do not forget to rate and review the show, whatever podcast platform you are listening on. It is so helpful for helping us get up the charts, for helping new people find the show. Thank you to anyone who has done it already. We love you. And last but not least, if you want to share this with your fellow Iron Flame friends, please do so. This is the best way to get the word out about the show. You know that friend who loves reading smut with you and you love talking about how much you love blowjob scenes? This is the podcast episode for you to share with them.
Thank you again so much for joining us, and welcome 2024. We are so excited to embark on this year's journey of book deep dives.
We love you all. Bye.
Bye.
And reminds the assembly what he... Whoa, I had my smoothie too late. I'm so sorry. It's going to be a spitty episode. Wow, words are hard today.
Like you said, Colts, Archer, Entertainment.
Culture. Cult. Follow the duckling. That's not... Follow the goose. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
That means that the other 8 must have been out on parole. Patrol.
Definitely patrol. You know, what am I saying?
You're just like, I totally forgot that that's so Raven. She had the ability to see the future. Is that right?
That was the whole premise of the show.
It's been a long time since I watched the Disney Channel.
Oh, I'm the sister. I'm older. Meh. To which Taryn calls a carrot excuse.
I was wondering what the heck you meant. A carrot excuse for a fortress.
This is what happens when you have dyslexia and you don't copy paste quotes from the book. I don't know what this is.
This is after I went through and cleaned up your stuff too. It was like as I read through it.
It is so funny the way the light
I
is
know.
hitting you.
It's so